Okay, and we are live. Welcome everyone. I'm glad you're here with us on this lovely, entertaining day. I don't know how to open these things up ever, so we'll go from there. Can everyone hear me? Let me adjust my mic slightly. There we go. There might be a little better sound quality now. Welcome. So, and we are. Oh God, I can hear myself. Welcome. Oh God. Okay, that's why I really should just mute my Why did I wake up and choose violence today? That's a very good question. But it's not going to be a violent day. This is not a intense stream. We're never too confrontational here unless it's like some specific people whose names we shall ignore for now. For now, anyway. So, welcome to... Let me refresh this page. Oh, wow, we have a pretty big crowd coming actually right now. Welcome to the screen. The stream, I should say. It's been a little bit of a chaotic couple of days, hasn't it? Quite frankly, it's been kind of wild. Yeah, fading background, right? Yeah. I guess we should talk about the Sailor Moon controversy at some point today as well, but I do want to talk about a few things first. One of which is going to be Overly Sarcastic Productions' Grimdark video, which I have some responses to, but I want to emphasize this right now that this is going to be a video more in the vein of my Neuralities stream a few months back. If you remember that one, where we are kind of going at it with the perspective of like, do we agree with this? Do we not agree with this? But we respect the opinions of the people who are saying it all the same. I was talking to Crimson Ender on one of his recent streams, where he was talking about engaging with people whose ideas we, really want to engage with, like talking to people who are like, we whose opinions we value, whose thoughts we, want to prioritize. Smigeddon Reviews, thanks you for being a member for 6 months. First, John Cena betrays kids everywhere, and now Anthony declares war on good critics. Everyone making a heel turn today, lol. I am not, I am not doing any such heel turns right now. Nick Wolf, thank you for Super Chat. Literally finished the OSP vid. Let's go. Yeah, so I want to emphasize this right now. I have the utmost respect for Overly Sarcastic Productions. I think Red and Blue do a fantastic job week to week making these incredible videos about tropes, history, mythology. It's fantastic work, and I absolutely adore it. If Red or Blue are watching, hello. I think they're really cool people. And generally I agree with most of what they say. But I want to use this as the start of a new trend for this channel. And that trend is such. Oh, Angels Art and Gaming, thank you for Super Chat. My power is out due to windstorms, so I'm at a McDonald's charging my phone and get Wi-Fi. But I'm glad this is a calm stream. Yeah, this will be a calm stream. This is going to be I'm hoping it's constructive. Because what I find so often is that we react to things that we want to be intrinsically angry at. We want to be, like with my previous streams, who have I covered? I've covered Lily Orchard, Jar, I've covered Shadiversity, JDA. In general, these are people who are typically I want to be very critical against. But I've always really loved when I respond to people like Neuralities. People whose opinions I respect, even if I don't fully agree with them, I respect them fully. And it's funny, Neuralities, she's someone I really want to have on stream at some point just to talk to, because I think she's a really interesting character. Generally speaking, she made a few videos that had a few that were critically attacked by some people. And what stinks is that she got really a lot of hate, and I think her videos are pretty good. I think she has a few things I disagree with. I think she oversimplified some of her opinions, but the hate mob against her was ridiculous. And I'm really glad that recently she's come back. And I'm actually really surprised she actually knew who I was, which was very surreal. I'm not used to that. And pour myself some tea right now. Whoop, and there we go. Whoop. And there we go. Get some tea in there. In general, I like engaging with the ideas of people who I respect, who I just don't totally agree with. Because unlike when I respond to, say, Lily Orchard, there's an idea of respect between the critics having the disagreement. I think that by arguing, by debating, by engaging, we're actually able to really elevate our understanding of a text and media. And likewise, if we're engaging in good faith with a critic who is very well established, knows what they're talking about, you can have a very intelligent conversation. It's not just simply talking down to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about but acts arrogant. It's talking to someone who is very sophisticated, very intelligent, very well read, and engaging on their level. It's more fun that way, honestly, to engage with ideas that are intelligent. And if there's something I disagree with, it's a disagreement born out of nuance rather than simply, no, Lily, that's you. That kind of mindset. There's a couple things I do want to talk about before we get started. Lily Orchard is having a real wild one recently. I'm not sure if anyone has seen this or not, but there's been some developments in the Lorch world. I'm going to share some of that with you right now, actually. I'm going to definitely, let me get those out real quick. These are from, I believe these are from Crim's server, actually, that are posted on. But essentially, Lily has been posting a chart that I just want to share with everyone because I think it's very interesting. Get this up here, right here. This is from her Blue Sky. So right here we have what Lily perceives to be a chart. This is from a few months ago, apparently, but I don't think I've seen it until just now. A chart of the alignment between Kingdom Hearts, Devil May Cry, and God of War in terms of button masher games. I figured I'll do a little bit of lorching now just to get people on on page for the more nuanced conversation later. But apparently Lily thinks that all these games are arranged between Kingdom Hearts, God of War, and Devil May Cry in terms of button mashing. Now, some of these games include Dark Souls, which is uncomfortably close to Kingdom Hearts in terms of the way she says it. God of War focused primarily on memorizing combos. Devil May Cry focused primarily on variety executing attacks. And Kingdom Hearts focused primarily on enemy patterns and defensive play. Kingdom Hearts is not that defensive. I've never really defended much in Kingdom Hearts. That's always been more of like a combos and all wild stuff, but I digress. It looks like she puts Devil May Cry, Bloodborne, Fable as basically just Kingdom Hearts. But as she puts it, they're all button mashers when you get down to it. It's a gradient. I don't know how I feel about this. I figured to just share with the chat so you all know. And that's it. Yeah, so she's still calling herself CD Cal, but she's admitted it's a rebrand, not a actual name. That's just something to get people entertained for a few minutes to let people filter in. One more thing I want to talk before we talk about OSP is the Oscars this week and how they left out several people. They left out several people from their memorials, which is memoriam, there we go. Which is to say the segment where they talk about all people who've passed on in the last year, some of which are some pretty big names. Michelle Trachtenberg just passed away about 2 weeks ago, which is, and she didn't get a single mention, but Gene Hackman, who died shortly after her, did get a mention. Shannon Doherty, who passed away from breast cancer recently, she wasn't mentioned. But the one that to me is the most upsetting is the lack of mention of Tony Todd, who passed away fairly recently. Famous for playing Candyman, did the voice of Venom in the recent Spider-Man 2 PS5 game. They snubbed Ken Page. Yeah, that's right. There were a lot of snubs. There was Elaine Dillon, Tony Roberts, Linda Lavin, James Darren, Mitzi Gaynor, Martin Mull, and Olivia Hussey. Olivia Hussey, of course, was most famous for Romeo and Juliet, but horror fans remember her from Black Christmas from the 70s, one of the best horror films of that era, I feel. And Also, documentary filmmaker Morgan Spurlock. For me, I think Quincy Jones got his own thing, which is separate. That's fine. I mean, of course, you can't expect the Oscars to mention every single person, but it just seems to me that horror always gets left out. Olivia Hussey got left out. Yeah, Olivia Hussey. No, but Tony Todd, that upset me a lot because he's Candyman. He's the Candyman. He's one of the best, most iconic horror movie villains of all time, and just a character actor for years. Was in Star Trek, was in tons of different things. Final Destination. And it feels ethically wrong to not mention that. And again, Oscars have a history of leaving people out. Very famously, they also left out Tobe Hooper when he passed away. I think they might have left out George Romero, but they might have mentioned him. Oh, crap, I'm trying to blank on his name. I was just talking to him about him before in this week's video. But, Roger Corman, got mentioned this year, thankfully. But I think that's also because he was responsible for so many of them getting careers in the first place. Like, Roger Corman is how you know about Jack Nicholson. It's how you know about Francis Ford Coppola. Roger Corman is responsible for jumpstarting the career of James Cameron. You know? It just really sucks that there's such a restrictive nature to everything. I just don't like it. I don't like how the Oscars leave people out. It bothers me. I was almost going to make the stream entirely about the Oscars and how they've snubbed horror, but then something happened that I think really sparked the conversation in a different direction for me, and that would be what happened on Twitter this weekend, which I'm going to share with you right now. I have a few screen grabs here that people shared with me. Now, I don't really go on Twitter anymore. I've kind of just decided against ever going back to Twitter because it's just not fun for me. But it seems to me that some people were very interested in my recent post, my recent Sailor Moon video, which did not get a link on Twitter. I did not link it on Twitter. But they found it, posted it, and there were some responses to it. Some very colorful responses. I'm going to share some screen grabs right here. Right there, another one. This obviously I did not take these screen grabs. It was from someone from Size Server, I believe, sent me them. I forget who exactly. If you are in chat, let me know who you were so I won't forget. But yeah, no, it's a lot of people who had a lot of feelings. We're gonna read some of the comments right now and respond to some of them. Very briefly, I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. But I do want to point out an element to this that I think is important to discuss, and another reason why I'm doing this video today. It's in part thanks to this feedback I decided to do this particular vid, and I'll explain my reasoning why. So some of the comments not gonna lie, but I feel like this fixation on making magical girls darker absolutely misses the point of the genre already being dark in a lot of ways. Yes, that's the conclusion of the video. That's the point of the video. My house shoujo fans, every time a Superman fans complains about there being another dark deconstruction of the stuff they enjoy. First time. Funny that I also did a Superman video recently, but I digress. Anyone who knows magical girls knows that Madoka is deconstruction. So everyone who knows magical girls know that Madoka is a deconstructive question about Usagi's sacrifices throughout Sailor Moon. There's a lot of parallels, but still ultimately a love letter, and boiling down Madoka to dark magical girl is just surface level mediocrity. Again, that's not what the video is about. I actually don't think I've read that comment fully. That's very confusing, actually, now I think about it, because it has nothing to do with what my video is about. Anyway. Wow, imagine if Sailor Moon was dark. Hey, remember when Usagi saw Mamoru get disintegrated in front of her and was so traumatized she made herself forget about it? Actually, no. Mamoru was not disintegrated. You forgot the scene where she holds Tuxedo Mask's body after he's been killed and says that she can't kiss Tuxedo Mask because the other girls won't be able to live to have their first kiss. So again, that's kind of interesting how that worked out when you said I didn't watch the show, but I don't think you remembered it quite the way I do, because Tuxedo Mask did not get disintegrated. He got killed. which is a little different. But he had a body still. His body was still there. It's already tragic. How much worse can you make it for her? Give her a bad ending? Again, that's kind of the point of the video. You really can't make it much worse. The idea of the video was I took elements that were already inherent in Sailor Moon and just amped them up a little bit. Kind of emphasized them a little bit more, put them in different perspectives. It was a creative thought exercise to illustrate why it's not always a good thing to make something dark. Just because you can make something dark doesn't mean you should. Oh, that was the manga that happened. Well, she didn't forget about being Sailor Moon in the manga. That was the anime, I'm pretty sure, right? No, they're not referencing Sailor Stars because the whole line said that Usagi forgot about being Sailor Moon. That happens between season 1 and 2 of the anime. I don't think she ever forgets in the manga, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was a reimagining. It was like a simple reimagining, a simple reinterpretation. And, hey, that happens. The problem is that it became very messy. It became a very messy discussion because people saw the thumbnail and reacted. And what I want to do with this, what I realized from all this, was that people weren't actually engaging with the ideas of the video. They were engaging with the idea that they had in their head of the video. And that's fine. I mean, listen, you're not entitled to watch the video. If the thumbnail and the title gave you an impression and you decided you didn't want to watch it based on that thumbnail and title, that's fine. That's not my obligation to tell anyone to watch a video I made. I am not owed anyone watching. I'm not owed that, perspective. And that's fine. That's okay. But what it made me think of was, how do we engage with people's arguments online? How do we really... Are we just blindly negative? Do we go into something expecting to hate it and then find ourselves validated by that? So my idea then became, well, let me ask myself this. What are some videos I really liked? Who are some video creators I really liked? Their arguments, their ideas. What makes their arguments so much better than my own or so much more interesting in what I can say? And now that I have a platform, can I engage in this greater conversation of video essays? Again, it's about elevating the arguments that we discuss across the interwebs with other people's ideas and thought processes. Simply as that. I don't want to be another critic who is seen as superficial. Because the problem is, even though my video was not superficial, I know it wasn't superficial, it's kind of, it tells you something. It tells you that people perceive my stuff as being superficial. So I would like to engage more with some ideas that are a little deeper. Even though people who watch me and follow me know I go deep into ideas, if I'm not communicating enough, I want to just demonstrate more and bring more positivity to the conversation. If all I'm bringing is negativity, that's not going to help anyone. It's not going to benefit anyone. So what I want to do is, when possible, try to spread positivity to some extent. They're still going to get your negative takedowns of really bad videos and really terrible ideas. But I want to make more efforts from here on out to try, not always, not every time, but, every month or so, respond and engage with an idea I like, from a creator I like, and try to engage with those ideas and say, hey, here's where they succeed, and here's maybe where I disagree. And use it as a chance to discuss media in a way that's engaging and enthusiasm and all that good stuff. I'm going to read some super chats because I know I've been skimping out in this a little bit. Let me take a look. Okay, cool. We go a little bit down here. Fan funding. Here we go. Sorry. Just to make sure I get all the things right here in a nutshell. Okay. Cool. Adrian Parchment, thank you for super chat. I was just watching Fianopolo and Veritas Joe next. They have really interesting topics. I've wanted to see Veritas Joe's stuff. I don't think I've seen Veritas Joe's stuff at all, honestly, up until now. Kyla Bones, thank you for super chat. Speaking of the Oscars, do you think the idea of lowbrow versus highbrow art has some classist roots? The idea that drama is inherently better than science fiction, horror, or fantasy seems really silly to me. Oh, 100% has classist roots. You ever wonder why the whole argument about Shakespeare, the question of whether or not Shakespeare wrote the plays of Shakespeare, you know how that started? It was from classism. William Shakespeare did not finish only finished elementary school in England. So, and it's, sorry, I was a little itchy. And it's clear if you read the works that Shakespeare doesn't have any references, sorry, it was really itchy, outside of an elementary school education. He he thought tigers lived in France. You know, he doesn't know a whole lot about the world, but he knows what he learned in elementary school. But at the time, a lot of the more learned scholars could not fathom the idea that some guy from the middle of nowhere could write these incredible plays. So they created the idea that Shakespeare had to be born from had to be a front man for some, you know, brilliant scholar from Cambridge, whatever. Now, what people didn't realize was that he was friends with, who wrote Dr. Faustus? Who died when he was 27 because he died in a bar fight. Might have been an agent for the agent against the Vatican. Anyway, so it'll come to me later. He worked under him at the Rose Theater, and as a result, learned his craft from there. But no, Shakespeare was very, very intelligent man. But again, it carries through. It used to be that these exploitative genre fics were reserved for the penny dreadful, for disposable income like comic books, and that classism carried through. That mentality that certain works aren't good enough carried through. So I fully think it's classism entirely. Gavin Carrith, thank you for Super Chat. The only person talking about Madoka probably only saw the title and thought the video was going to be about making a dark fantasy Sailor Moon, that it's good, unlike Madoka. I love Madoka. That's the thing I find very strange. And I don't think Madoka is the darkest magical series. I think there's much darker out there than Madoka. Madoka is just Dr. Faustus with magical girls, essentially. Because I'm bored, thank you for Super Chat. Not gonna lie, it's kind of a bad idea for a video to be about the premise of the video. Is a bad idea. Right? It's a bad idea for a video to be about the premise of the video is a bad idea. It's like making a spy movie about how bad spy movies are. Yeah, I agree. That would be about that. But the video it's more the thesis is Christopher Marlowe. There we go. Thank you, chat. Sorry. It's more that the idea that if you fundamentally shift what a narrative is, you can sometimes lose track of what it is you're trying to discuss in the media itself. A Sailor Moon works because it's a magical story. Even though it does have dark moments, even though it does have depressing bits, it works because at the core of it, there is joy, there is happiness, there is true warmth. And a story being dark does make it better. It does not make it better, in fact. And we're going to discuss that today. Because, as you're going to see in the OSP video, there is an argument about whether or not Grimdark gets too dark. Now, what is Grimdark? Well, we're going to find out in this video. But I do want to discuss a few things before we get started with this. I'll just click the video, let it open up.
I'm confused. For one.
Oh, sorry, this is playing halfway through. I kind of went through a little bit to get some ideas before starting, so I have a fully formed idea before we can really dive in. But what is Grimdark? Well, Grimdark is a subgenre of dark fantasy, which itself is a subgenre of fantasy. Example of Grimdark that everyone kind of knows about would be Berserk. And Berserk can be a very meaningful work. I know that Lady Emily has a really great video on Berserk. She is a complete Berserk nerd. I will tell her that to her face if I, So, and one argument that she makes in that video that I fully agree with is the emotional intensity of Berserk. Berserk is a work that is very raw. And, horror appeals to people for very different reasons. And horror can be very validating. There's a horror movie that came out many years ago, before I was born, called Last House on the Left. It's Wes Craven's debut film. Not his first project. That would be another kind of project he made before becoming really famous. But, so Last House on the Left. It is a movie based on... It's really an adaptation of The Virgin Springs by Ingmar Bergman. But it's a very disturbing movie where these two girls, they go to a concert and they are kidnapped by these recent escapees from jail. I think they're escapees or they were let out of jail. I forget which one it is, but they just left jail and they take these girls into the woods. It's during the 70s, right? It's during the Vietnam era. And they assault them and then murder them. And then the criminals, as they flee the scene of the murder, they stop at a bed and breakfast. And it so happens that the bed and breakfast is run by the parents of one of the girls they just murdered. And before long, the parents figure out They had something to do. They had some encounter with their daughter, and it goes from there. It's a great movie. It's fantastic, but it's a movie that I think is deeply depressing. It's a deeply moving movie, deeply moving piece, and it's upsetting, and it's heartbreaking, and it's deeply uncomfortable to sit through because it's so raw and honest with its subject matter. It's so unrelenting, and it is grim. It is hopeless. There is never a shred of hope outside the hope outside of the little tease of hope they give in a couple points in the film that they dangle in front of you. It's a very bleak movie. It's great though, and that's an example of grimdark having an emotional impact on you. I don't want to say too much in case you haven't seen Last House on the Left. It is truly beautiful, but Angels Art and Gaming, thank you for Super Chat. Discussion of Shakespeare reminds me of how I like to talk about how Shakespeare and Mozart were probably like internet culture. Mozart would be a Rick and Morty fan, and I may elaborate. Well, if you've ever read Mozart's letters about his farts, I guarantee he would love Rick and Morty. Mozart was a pervert. Mozart was a creep. I love it. He is out there. He would definitely be a fan of trash anime. I'll say that right now, I think. Mozart was chaotic. Shakespeare probably would too. Because I'm bored, thank you for Super Chat. What are your thoughts on splatterpunk? Do you think it has artistic merit, or it's just gross edginess only to make the reader throw up? Well, it's like all things. It depends on the author. You know, splatterpunk can be really good. Don't forget, Clive Barker is a splatterpunk novelist. I think is any of his books in reach? Yeah, books of it's out of reach. But no, like Clive Barker is a splatterpunk writer, and Clive Barker's works are incredible. I think that's some of my all-time favorite works of fiction. But then you get stuff that's trash. It all depends on who writes it, you know? Not a whole genre is not equal to the best of its medium. 90% of everything is crap. 90% of all works are garbage, but that 10% is incredible. And with Grimdark, it's the same thing. Ever heard of 40K? Yes, I have heard of Warhammer 40K. There were dick and fart jokes in Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet opens up with a dick joke. Like it's pervy, but it's great. It's fun. You need that. Terrifier movie franchise. I love the Terrifier movies. I think they're really good. They are definitely an acquired taste. I did not always love them. They've grown on me, but I do love Terrifier. I like seeing them every year. But I do think that the arguments against Terrifier are totally valid. It's not good cinema, but it's fun cinema. As long as you're in the right headspace for it. Where does depressing and bleak stories end and Grimdark begins? There is no difference. Grimdark is bleak. Grimdark is dark. Grimdark is depressing. That's part of what Grimdark is. Nick Wolf, thank you, Super Chat. I love Last House on the Left. The two comedy relief cops searching for a girl to bring her home to her family dinner. What a wacky family comedy. Yeah, that's very true. Cinemageddon Review, thank you, Super Chat. Mozart was the original professional ship poster. Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. Okay, so we've talked a lot, but we haven't talked about where OSP fits into any of this. So, I know, half hour into an Anthony Gramiglia stream, we're at zero minutes into the video we're talking about. Yeah, Hilda's great. I saw you comment there. Hilda's pretty fantastic. Yeah, so without further ado, what is Trope Talk? Well, Trope Talk is a video where OSP does, where Red, one of the two core members of OSP, goes over tropes in media and talks about their applications, her opinions on them, what have you. Now, I want to get this out of the way first because some people are going to expect me to be all harsh on Red. No, I'm not going to be harsh on Red. Red's a cool person. I have a lot of respect for Red. As far as I know, they've not done anything bad. As far as I know, they've been on the platform for over 10 years. Usually at this point, if they were cruddy people, they would have encountered some controversy that was really destructive, but they haven't. Aside from sometimes them being inaccurate on information, which every YouTuber does, it's not the end of the world. She does some good work, does a lot of hard research on this stuff, and, you know, it's a lot of work doing what she does. Because I'm bored, thanks for Super Chat. Are FromSoft games grimdark or just dark fantasy? They're grimdark. They're very grimdark. The Souls games especially are excessively grimdark. I'd say Bloodborne is too. Elden Ring is on the cusp, but I think that's still grimdark. Yeah, OSP Red and OSP Blue seem like real stand-up guys. Agreed. They seem really, really cool. I have spoken recently, in fact, to Red. She seems like a really cool person. I will say no more on that subject because, anything can happen with what I discussed, but there may be a time where you may see them show up on the channel at some point, potentially, if things go through. But, anything can change. Not gonna, anything can happen. But, I will say this. This video is going to be really interesting because I agree with parts of it. I get where she's coming from with other parts, and I fundamentally disagree with others. And I'm going to discuss where I stand, where I differ, and I'm going to use it as a chance to discuss the merits of grimdark storytelling. And a chance to enjoy some of this tea. I have here some chai, which is pretty good, so I'm enjoying it. Now, I do want to talk about this one thing, too. Red seems to have certain preferences for fiction. If you understand those preferences, you'll understand where she's coming from in this video. She seems to like more idealistic stuff, typically. Though she still likes some cool stuff. Not cool stuff, that sounds like demeaning. I think she still likes a lot of interesting, different, diverse pieces of media, but she tends to really like more stories where the characters are able to grow and develop and able to triumph. There are some moments where she likes the falls of characters and all that, but she tends to like stories that have some degree of hope, as well as a degree of fear and tension. She likes the balance. I don't think she particularly likes grimdark, and I think because it's a little too much of the darkness. It's a little too depressing. It's not for everyone. But anyway, I'm talked long enough. Let me let her speak for herself in this video, and I'm going to pause periodically when she finishes her ideas to offer my response, my thoughts, etc. And again, the intention here is to be constructive. In chat, you are more than able to offer feedback, and we were able to respond and engage with it. And let's yes, I will say that too. Red is one of the few people who actually get Superman on this platform. I will say that. Her Superman video is a breath of fresh air after listening to Shadiversity talk about Superman. But I digress.
This video was sponsored by World Anvil, a bright spark of hope in an otherwise cold and uncaring world.
I get the ad reading there somewhere.
The Dark Age of Comics officially began in 1986, the year that saw both Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns and Alan Moore's Watchmen. Superhero comics had touched on dark themes before. Chris Claremont's God Loves, Man Kills, an X-Men comic that handled themes of religious zealotry and full-on genocide, came out in 1982. And Alan Moore's take on Swamp Thing, which is deeply grotesque and unsettling, also came out in the early 80s. But this is when comics started getting dark overall. The grittiness became the rule rather than the exception. There was a bit of an arms race, honestly. By the 90s, it almost felt like comic writers were trying to one-up each other in how dark, gory, and morally ambiguous they could make their heroes. This is the era that saw such developments as the characters of Cable, Lobo, Spawn, and John Constantine, and DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths, an attempt at rebooting the entire space of DC Comics that killed off hundreds of characters, most notably Supergirl and The Flash, and some say is still f***ing up canon to this very day.
I want to take a break there for a second just to talk about a few things. A lot of comics history is just compressed into a very small span of time there. I think Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns are, of course, undeniably the start of the Dark Ages in comics. As Red said, they were darker stories before. Alan Moore wrote a bunch of them. There were several comics that... God Loves, Man Kills is another one, too. I think Chris Claremont, in general, did a fantastic job with the X-Men comics, detailing all these disturbing stuff. Again, God Loves, Man Kills is one of my favorite comics of all time. I do, though, think it is a bit reductive to combine Crisis on Infinite Earths with, say, Spawn. Because I feel like they're dark in different ways. Whereas Crisis on Infinite Earths was more an extreme universe-spanning event that was more a crisis, more of super heroic in terms of like paragons of good and evil coming together, entropy versus life, these bigger, larger-than-life ideas. It was dark, but it wasn't as dark as, say, Watchmen, which kind of deconstructed the idea of superheroes entirely, going into what would a society look like if heroes did exist? How would the government react? How would normal society react? How would wars react? And I feel like it is a little reductive to connect that with Crisis on Infinite Earths, even though they are around the same time frame. Especially considering that we would now comparing Cable to that. And Cable was a very different idea. But again, Cable was directly inspired by the darker and edgier movement in Dark Age of comics. So the only thing I have an issue with is including Crisis on Infinite Earths in that mix, just because I feel like it's a little... It doesn't quite fit with the rest of the Dark Ages as much as the other stuff did. Which, again, as she's going to get into, we're very superficially dark. I think Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen were very sophisticated in their darkness. Cable and Spawn, not so much. But we'll get to that. And it looks like they have the death of Superman going on right here, so let's keep going with that. A couple comments I do see. Baichi Epiodera, thank you once again for being a member for 7 years. 7 months, though. 7 years, that's funny. And Trope Talks. Trope Talk when? That'd be really cool, wouldn't it? Because I'm bored, thank you, Super Chat. You see her video on Stranger in a Strange Land? Yeah, I did. I referenced it in my Elon Musk video, which has just crossed 300,000 views, which is really cool. Anyway, back to this.
90s rolled on, the comic book Dark Age kept on trucking. The stories got darker, the characters got meaner, and there was this oddly pervasive feeling of embarrassment with the previous eras of comic books. All those colorful spandex superhumans with wildly unrealistic power sets saving the day for truth and justice? How childish. How implausible. Now we had dark spandex superhumans killing people with their wildly unrealistic power sets for personal reasons. See, that's much more believable. Who needs to grow up now, Mom? This was the broad beginning of Grim.
Okay, so a couple things I want to point out there. One interesting comic, too, that actually might be lost in the wave of ultra dark, edgy stories that actually is anti that, is Maximum Carnage, the Spider-Man crossover, which is a storyline about a hero like Spider-Man who is optimistic, idealistic, always fighting for, the common person on the street, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, being confronted with absolute madness in the form of carnage. And how a threat like that can drive even good people to rough and intense means. But the story ends with hope and love winning, with empathy and kindness being able to be channeled into an explosive wave that disrupts the whole carnage madness. I think it's Shriek that's doing something with her like psychic waves that's caused people to go crazy in the streets and riot. But it's a story that kind of slaps the idea of the Dark Age in its face. By presenting ultra darkness in front of everyone, it goes, yeah, but at the end of the day, these are comics we're talking about, where people are good and love seeing good triumphs over bad, and it's all that, and it's a fun time. Too long, but fun. I like Maximum Carnage. It's a good story. But I would not say the Dark Age of comics is the start of the Dark Ages, the grim dark subgenre. And I'll explain why. I want to hear her say her full thoughts here before I articulate this, but in case I forget that she references older texts. But the Dark Age in comics was really not the start of this, because I'll get to it in a second. Let's hear her talk.
Grimdark, a space of stories that, true to the name, are grim and dark and nothing else. Grimdark is hard to solidly define, but before we try, we need to dive into the other major contributing factor to the genre, Warhammer 40k, a tabletop minis game first.
Yep, Warhammer 40k. There's another great example of that. Nick Wolf, thanks Super Chat. Thank you for being a member for 1 month. Maximum Carnage, first trade I bought in New York City, no less. Oh, I love Maximum Carnage's story. That's a good first trade to get, too, I might add.
Published in 1987. This game is the source of the term grimdark. The game's tagline is, "In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war." And it's pretty much exactly what it says on the tin. It's the far future, everything sucks, and everybody's fighting all the time. There are no heroes, there's no happy ending, there is only war. So here's the quick rundown. In Warhammer 40k, you pick an army, you spend way too much money buying and painting the minis, and then you use them for tabletop war games with other people and their armies of minis. Most people...
This is why I never got into Warhammer 40k all that much. It's too expensive. It's just too much money. I have a buddy, he spent he had $20,000 on his Warhammer set. The heat goes off in his house and all the paint melts off. Ruined. $20,000 down the drain. Couldn't use it in tournaments. Terrible.
play as the Imperium of Man, specifically the Space Marines, but if you'd expect them to be the good guys, you are sorely mistaken. In the lore of the game, the Imperium of Man is an authoritarian nightmare that worships the mummified husk of a god emperor who they keep running with daily blood sacrifices. It's got the propagandistic no free thought allowed vibe of 1984 with exactly none of the subtlety. And the other options aren't any better. There are really bad guys like the Forces of Chaos, demons from a parallel universe known as the Warp, where the psychic emanations of sentient beings from our universe produce twisted monomaniacal demons that rip through the fragile skin of reality to ravage our world. Fun stuff. They're in good company with the Tyranids, a massive psychic hive mind from another galaxy that is systematically using their massive xenomorph-style biomass of murder critters to chew through entire planets and appear to have the galaxy completely surrounded. I mean, between those two forces, everyone's pretty much boned already. The Tyranids are chewing through space, and the Forces of Chaos are punching big holes in it every time a psychic gets a headache. But it doesn't stop there. You can play as the Necrons, the last remnant of an ancient empire that tried to escape death and instead turned into Terminator space zombies.
I'm gonna pause this real quick for a second. So first, one, a couple super chats real quick. David Deister, one super chat. David Deister, thank you again for the super chat. You should see Sci-Fi Debris' take on the Dark Age of comics in his documentary called The Rise and Fall of the Comic Empire. That's a good recommendation. I will second that recommendation. You should watch that. I have seen it. It's fantastic. Cardinal, a quick question. Have Musk's sycophants harassed me yet? No, actually. I have not had a Bizarrely, the Sailor Moon video was more controversial than the Elon Musk video. I know, right? I'm stunned too. No one's bothered me about that. But everyone's pissed about the Sailor Moon video. I guess Sailor Moon has more defenders than Elon Musk, I guess. But no, so one important thing to mention about Warhammer that I do know about is that it started as a parody. Warhammer started as a satire. It did not start as something to be taken seriously. Its edginess was to take into such a height that you couldn't rationally read this and go, yeah, this is a serious story. It was so absurd. But over time, the mindset behind Warhammer shifted. It became more of a critical story. Now, I want to point something out here. Watchmen, Warhammer 40K, that's the second half of the 80s, right? So mid to late 80s, that's when grimdark trend started, according to this video, right? What if I told you that there is a work 20 years older than that I would pinpoint as the real start of grimdark as we come to know it today? And what if I told you it's on my shelf behind me? And what if I also told you that I referenced it in my Sailor Moon video? Want me to show it to you all? I'm going to bring it out right now. This is a work that is very important to the dark this genre, right here. It's called The Elric Saga by Michael Moorcock. Michael Moorcock's Elric. Story about Elric of Melniboné, a frail, albino, weak sorcerer, the last of his line in a hierarchy of a kingdom of dying dragons. And he's given a sword, Stormbringer. A sword that feasts upon souls and blood. It cannot be sheathed until it's devoured the souls of someone. And everyone that Elric meets dies a horrible death. Or gets brutally mutated into some slug monster, and then dies. The world ends. He travels through time, through reality. And Warhammer 40k cites the Elric Saga as a major influence. So does Gary Gygax, the same guy who made Dungeons and Dragons. Devilman actually also is a good example of grimdark as well. Devilman's a fantastic example of grimdark. I think the Devilman manga is one of the grimmest and darkest of material around. Also important to note that works like Violence Jack I'd also count as grimdark to a lesser extent, and that predates stories like Fist of the North Star. Anyway, but yeah, Michael Moorcock's Elric Saga. If you haven't read it, it's an extremely dated work. It is not... Michael Moorcock has always called himself a good writer with great ideas, and I agree with that. He is a good writer. He's not a great writer, but it's his ideas that really sell his work and make them so memorable. But in terms of writing style and structure, there are some flaws. It's not perfect, but you respect the imagination of this man, I think, anyway. At least I do. Anyway. But yeah, Michael Moorcock wrote Elric starting in like the late 60s. So And Go Nagai did Devilman 72, 73. Yeah, Elric did inspire the Targaryens in the Song of Ice and Fire. In fact, if you read the books, I forget if it's in the show also, but I'm pretty sure it's is it Joffrey's sword called Stormbringer? Yeah, it's named after the Elric saga. All right, a couple of quick super chats, real quick. I want to take a look at. Nick Wolf, thank you for super chat. All I know about Warhammer is that the fanfic writers like to cross over with Evangelion as a means of turning Shinji into a total Sigma Chad badass. Yeah, right? Yeah, they love that. For some reason, there's a whole subgenre of Evangelion and Warhammer 40k crossover fics. It's very funny. Robert Cruz, thank you for super chat. People see Sailor Moon Thumb and assume the worst. Yeah, unfortunately they do. It sucks, but what are you going to do? Zorku, thank you for super chat. He's pulling out more cock. Yeah, right. Mr. Nemu, thank you for super chat. Did Anno base Shinji's backstory on Sailor Saturn? I don't think so. There's a debate on how much Sailor Mercury inspired Rey, but no one's really sure. Oh yeah, and Drizzt. I would not say Elric is Drizzt before Drizzt. Drizzt is very different. Drizzt is more someone who, to quote Skyrim, overcomes his evil nature through great effort. He's more of someone who emerges from a civilization that trains you to. It's like unlearning. It's like getting out of a cult. That's Drizzt's story, and he becomes a great hero. But Drizzt's weapons are all. None of them I don't think are cursed swords. I don't think. I think he has some enchanted weapons, but not like cursed, quite like Stormbringer is. Anyway, by JP Odera, thank you super chat. The best quote about Warhammer comes from the streamer Ray Narvaez Jr. His chat was telling him about the orcs, and he said, "Is this real? Because this all sounds like a shitpost." Yeah, no. Warhammer is basically a shitpost, especially the orcs. I do love the orcs in Warhammer. They're pretty funny.
Or the orcs, green-skinned space football
there you go.
hooligans who have literally no priorities besides war. Or you could do what I did and play the Eldar, gorgeous, elegant, psychic space elves whose massive space empire was pretty awesome until they partied so hard it created a chaos god that shattered their empire and turned half of them into bondagey murder space pirates, leaving the rest wasting away on massive spaceships, recycling their souls into giant robots because there aren't enough of them to fight otherwise. Or maybe you want to play as the Tau, fresh-faced alien newcomers who are looking to build a pan-galactic space empire by subjugating all other races using mind control. Ah, beans, it's always something. There really is no winning. Warhammer 40k is kind of the platonic ideal of Grimdark. There are literally no good options, and thanks to the infinite forces of chaos, there's really no winning. There's no heroes, no unified bad guy to target, no Death Star to destroy, there's just war, and plenty of it. And most likely thanks to the 1-2 punch of the comic book Dark Age and Warhammer 40k exploding onto the scene, their shared aesthetic of Grimdark got mad popular starting in the 90s. This is also, not coincidentally, around when White Wolf started publishing their notoriously grim World of Darkness games. Now, since Grimdark is more of a vibe,
I will also say this. The 90s were an era where Grimdark became extremely prominent. And I do think Warhammer and comics had a huge influence on that. But it wasn't just simply American comics that were super grimdark. You also were seeing it in Japan as well. And a lot of that had to do with American media. Western media anyway. People don't realize how much of an influence the cyberpunk genre had on Japan. And Japan took cyberpunk into grimdark territory. If grimdark is overlapping with both sci-fi and fantasy, you can't argue, though, that stuff like Devilman and Violence Jack and other Go Nagai works had an influence on that, as well as the OVA market, where extreme violence was drove sales, You couldn't get OVAs. When you got OVAs, what were they selling you based on? They were selling you based on stuff you couldn't see on TV. What couldn't you see on TV? Extreme violence. And that's where stuff like Genocyber comes in. I would say Legend of the Overfiend is also grimdark. So yeah, those are all factors as well. I think the problem with describing any genre as like a cross-pollination, it's hard to say that this started the genre, but it is possible, which she's saying, in fairness, she is saying this, that this really kickstarted the popularity of a genre, which is what she's saying. Saying it's where it started, I think it's a little oversimplification, but this is a very simple confined expression of the whole idea. Oh yeah, Legend of the Overfiend is interesting. I think. Anyway, I don't think it's very good to recommend to watch with your family or your mom, but it's memorable. It's memorable, we'll say. Legend of the Overfiend, certainly. Werewolf the Apocalypse also is really a good tabletop game, but Vampire the Masquerade, that started that whole White Wolf run. I think I did a game of Werewolf. It's quite good. I like it.
Within a genre, it's a little tricky to strictly define, but there's a few key factors that help narrow it down. See, lots of stories are gritty and dark without going full grimdark, which is a totally different ballgame, but it can be very easy to get them confused. For one thing, grimdark has no heroes. It can certainly have protagonists, but those protagonists aren't heroes. Their motivations are usually entirely self-centered and morally dubious, their methods are deeply unpleasant, they're typically quite self-destructive, and overall they're not what you'd think of as a good person. They can be very sympathetic and relatable, but they're not someone you'd look up to exactly. Heroes often represent ideals. Grimdark protagonists don't. There are plenty of gritty, dark protagonists who are full-on heroes with paragon ideals or a strong sense of justice, and those guys aren't grimdark. And when they get rewritten as grimdark, it feels weird. If you take a grimdark setting and put a hero in it, they don't fit. Either the world bends around them through the sheer force of their protagonistness and ungrimdarks the setting, or the grimdark wins and they die, usually very nastily. Grimdark and heroes can't coexist. This is
very true. This is also, I think, why when Frank Miller kept writing his version of Batman to be more extreme, the more artificial it got. I think that The Dark Knight Returns, Batman's still a hero in that. He still has a heroic core to him. But when it comes time for The Dark Knight Strikes Again or All-Star Batman and Robin, he is so awful as a person that you can no longer buy the world of Batman. He's too foul of a human being, and that really takes you out of the mindset. I agree with that entirely. There are no heroes in Grimdark. Grimdark is a story, though that being said, they are protagonists you follow, like she says. I'm seeing people ask, is Berserk a Grimdark story? Absolutely. Berserk is definitely a Grimdark story. And if you take Berserk and follow all these different descriptions Red's putting out, yeah, it will fit perfectly.
Case where Warhammer 40k has kind of an advantage. For the most part, as a war game, individual characters don't matter. There are a few special units with names and backstories, and the lore has plenty of characters in it, but no matter how cool their alleged narrative accomplishments might be, when the game gets going, they usually die pretty quick anyway. However, there are some tie-in novels that put focus more on individual protagonists, and those novels tend to have a much less overwhelmingly gritty tone than the actual game lore does. The world is still a hot mess, but the characters do heroic things, and care about each other on a very deep level, and forge genuine lasting friendships and other such hopeful things that don't normally feature in grimdark narratives. While the game is grimdark, it's hard to write a compelling story in that setting, so the books end up being not quite grimdark. Now, another key factor is that grimdark has no real hope for a happy ending. Some stories come with clean solutions: blow up the Death Star, destroy the artifact, defeat the evil emperor, put the one true king on the throne, return with the elixir, a simple goal that our heroes have to accomplish to win. Grimdark doesn't have that simple fix. If the world is unpleasant and broken, our protagonists have no simple way of improving it. Maybe the government is corrupt all the way up, or the deities themselves are evil, or the world is just boned in 1,000 different ways and fixing one won't do anything for the other 999. Saving the world isn't on the table. In absence of a clean solution, grimdark narratives can still have smaller scale victories on the table. Maybe our protagonists will never overthrow their authoritarian regime, but they can successfully dissuade small scale agents of that regime from messing with their little corner of the planet. Or your cosmic horror setting doesn't really give you the option of defeating the elder gods, but you can still outrun their cultists. Still, despite the small scale victories, grimdark makes sure our characters will have to deal with this pervasive unpleasantness basically forever. And the last staple of grimdark is... That's
important too. The idea that the world is beyond saving, that one person can't fix every problem. That's a key element of grimdark. I agree with that fully. No, Berserk is definitely grimdark. If you look at all the components, Guts is not a hero. The world of Berserk cannot be fixed on a core level without great inhuman effort. Now, at this point in the story, there still isn't a clear-cut view of how Guts can truly win. But it is more about... But so far, it's been involved about his personal journey through all that. He's been able to overthrow demons. He's been able to do all that. But at the same time, there is no... Actually, the thing about the story also is that with the way it goes, it's only through Herculean effort that he's able to change anything. And even then, the problem also is that Griffith presents himself as a hero who can salvage the world's problems. While Berserk will have a happy ending in the end, what does happy truly mean? Is it happy for the characters to have their small point of joy? Will it actually fix the world? It's hard to say. And it's also hard to say if Miura's final vision will come to pass. I know he wanted a happy ending, but what does happy mean? Does it mean saving the world, or does it mean Guts finding peace and happiness in the face of pain? That's a tough question to answer. And a happy ending doesn't necessarily mean overwhelmingly positive. The dark world can still exist, even if the characters find some degree of happiness on a personal level. And even then, destroying Griffith won't make the world of Berserk better. There's still going to be a ton of problems that can't be fixed just by destroying Griffith. That's part of what makes the world so overwhelmingly oppressive. But again, gray and gray morality, it's another factor as well. So here we go.
Gray and gray morality. Some stories have black and white morality, where the heroes are good, and therefore everything they do is good, and the villains are bad, and thus do only bad things. Most modern media avoids full-on black and white morality, and will allow their heroes to do questionable things and their villains to be a bit more nuanced and sympathetic, but it rarely dips into full-on gray and gray morality, where all the characters are working in a very murky area. In gray and gray morality, the righteousness of an action becomes irrelevant. Some other paradigm is in play. Maybe all that matters is survival, or revenge, or some other fundamentally self-centered goal. The morality of what the characters do in pursuit of that goal isn't a factor, or at least not one that matters to them. Pointing it out to them is pointless. Gee, Mr. Punisher, did you know that murder is wrong? Oh, golly, I hadn't considered that. Guess I'll leave my dead family unavenged. See, that's not the paradigm they're working under. Even if there is a grand-scale good versus evil conflict going on, these guys aren't invested in it. Now, one of the more interesting and...
That's a fair point, too. Typically speaking, someone is dead set in their ways. They're very moral. They have a very gray perspective. They're not... Usually people come with more self-serving intentions in Grimdark. And that's important. That's the thing also. Okay. Oh, so a couple super chats real quick. SMJ, thank you super chat. I always mispronounce your name. I'm sorry to say. I would argue the power of Grimdark is that it is a very emotionally provocative genre. The hopelessness makes the hope spots affect us that much more. Yeah, that's also true. When there is a tease of hope, that opens the door for it to be taken away. And that's sometimes more effective than anything else, I think. Adrian Parchment, thank you for super chat. Remember Frank Miller's non-Batman, The Fixer comic, Holy Terror? Unfortunately, I do recall that one. Yeah, that's a comic it's kind of hard to forget about. One second, I'm just going to take this layer off. It's getting a little hot in here, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's always a stream before I take my shirt off at some point. Sorry about that. Listen, I have a big light right here. It gets hot. Okay, don't make fun of me. Okay, cool. But yeah, no. So that's the thing too. What does no happiness mean? Right? Does it mean the world won't get fixed, or that the characters will never find some sliver of joy? I think this video indicates that the true happy ending is the world's problems are fixed. But most of these grimdark stories never really fix their world. It's always something sticks around, something stays, something lingers on from, it's a Gengar shirt. I had to wear something grim and dark here. In this case, a ghost Pokemon. That's how dark we got on this channel. Yes, Gengar has arms. Yeah, I think Gengar has arms. Anyway, that's a good point too. Grimdark versus realism. I would also say using the Punisher as an example of Grimdark might not be the best example, because the Punisher, depending on who writes the Punisher, may have a different perspective. Because the Punisher was introduced as a Spider-Man villain. As a villain in Spider-Man. Not just like another hero, but as someone Spider-Man had to fight. And a story is having a dark moment doesn't make it grimdark either. No, Gengar's a ghost Pokemon. I know, but still, it's fun. So yeah, here's question 2. Grimdark versus realism. Is reality grim or dark? We'll find out. Let's take a look.
And frustrating things when discussing Grimdark is this pervasive idea that Grimdark is inherently more realistic than other genres. I talked about this way back when I did a trope talk on realism, so I'll try not to get too far off track, but the short of it is, Grimdark was a bit of a direct reaction to the more lighthearted, optimistic stories of the pre-Dark Age. Those stories had heroes and happy endings, and Grimdark said, that's dumb, and also for babies, check this out, and then started telling stories without those things. This ties into the general idea that optimism is naive, something you're supposed to grow out of, and pessimism is real, the state you grow into. And that's a load of hooey. Yeah, I said it. What are you gonna do, be sad at me about it? Optimism and pessimism are two sides of the same concept. One anticipates a good state of being, the other a bad one. Half full versus half empty. Ultimately, it's the state that matters, not what you expect it to be, so for the most part, optimism and pessimism are just personal attitudes and don't matter that much. But optimism and pessimism, when expanded into universalized concepts, produce two very different worldviews. The optimistic worldview believes that things can go well, that the world can be better. The pessimistic worldview believes that they can't and won't. And in this case, the optimists have it. The world can improve and has several times. Heroes have existed, and the world has been, on occasion, saved by them, or at least greatly improved. This is the concept highlighted by classic fantasy authors, like Tolkien. Grimdark is part of the counter-argument put forward in response to that by more jaded authors, like George R.R. Martin. Now, this...
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with anything she just said. All of that is something I agree with. Optimism... I am a perpetually optimistic person about life. Reasonably optimistic, but optimistic. Where I don't totally agree, though, is the idea of Tolkien or George R.R. Martin being fully one or the other. I think they kind of exist on that spectrum, but not quite necessarily on pure optimism or pure pessimism. George R.R. Martin based his stories on a cynical read of history. Undeniably so. It's no secret that Game of Thrones is heavily inspired by the War of the Roses. But likewise, Tolkien wasn't a super idealist himself. He saw history more in the vein of one long defeat. That with every age, the next age to follow became less and less special. There's famously, among Tolkien scholars, there is the sequel to Lord of the Rings that Tolkien began writing but scrapped because he felt it was too depressing. In this story, there are no elves, the dwarves have hidden away, and there are orcs that rove around. But humanity has become very industrial. It's become very like a shadow of its former self. With each age, the age that follows is smaller, more industrial, less enchanted, further away from the light of Eru and the gods, and God in Tolkien's world. And his work became very depressing, very cynical. It's a world where war changes you, where even if you do succeed, it comes at great sacrifice, great cost that weighs on you emotionally. But George R.R. Martin, his works do have a sense that the system can be changed. But the problem is, very realistically, that change can come for the short term. There are solutions to solving the problems, and there are enemies outside of the world that matter. And they are small victories. But the problem is that humanity's drive for power keeps us from addressing those solutions. That's the ultimate thesis of A Song of Ice and Fire, that we're so busy fighting over these thrones and, over authority that we're missing the real problems. We're ignoring the looming threat just north of us. That's the ultimate idea of Game of Thrones, at least the books anyway, that we're so caught up in these wars that we're just completely ignoring the real problems coming at us from all sides. And it's interesting and compelling stuff, I think anyway. That we ignore the deeper, richer nature of the world because we're so caught up in the here and now. That's not grim dark, I don't think. It is dark fantasy, certainly, but I don't think of A Song of Ice and Fire as truly grim dark. Though it is definitely dark fantasy. I think that George R.R. Martin is very much in line with what Tolkien did. The only difference is the scale at which Tolkien did it. Now, someone like Michael Moorcock, hated Tolkien and is definitely firmly in grimdark. His stories end miserably, with all hope lost with Elric. So that's grimdark. Elric is grimdark. George R. R. Martin with Song of Ice and Fire, not so much. I don't think so anyway. Anyway, but a few more super chats real quick. And again, Red does elaborate. This is not her end of her thoughts. I don't want to act like it is. I'm just pointing out my thoughts as we go. Okay. Because I'm bored, thank you for super chat. Speaking of Frank being Frank Miller, I think Aspar, All-Star Batman and Robin, for those who don't know what Aspar means, is an iconic masterpiece. Bat paints himself yellow while offering lemonade to Green Lantern and calling like a 12-year-old when Dick doesn't like his car. It's very funny. Aspar is unintentional. All-Star Batman and Robin is unintentionally very, very funny. It is bizarre, ridiculous, weird. I don't like it. It's not good, but it's such a bizarre read. It's kind of hard not to admire it. Whereas The Dark Knight Strikes Again, which is the sequel to Dark Knight Returns, I think that's Frank Miller's worst one. It's just dark enough to be deeply unpleasant, but not ridiculous enough to be entertaining. W.C. Witt, thank you for super chat. J.R.R. Tolkien and George R.R. Martin are not nearly as opposed in their thinking as people like to frame. People who say that tend to only have Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones as their reference points for fantasy as a whole. I don't know if I agree with it being those are the only points of reference, but I do agree. A lot of people will look at George R.R. Martin and Tolkien as polar opposites, and they are very different. Undeniably so. They are very different writers, very different people. But I don't think they're that far apart ethically, or not ethically, in terms of their worldview. I think that they are very similar in some cases. It's just Tolkien does lean more optimistically, though he does see history as one long defeat, as he said multiple times in his life. And George R. R. Martin is more cynical, though not without the idea of hope that people could solve a problem if they just worked together. You know, that's one thing right there. The problems can be solved, but no one wants to. That's the real cynical tragedy of A Song of Ice and Fire. If they all worked together to solve the problem, they could, but they choose not to.
This counterargument isn't all grimdark. At its most sophisticated, it's more of an attempt to humanize these otherwise mythologized heroes, to point out that the people who changed the world, even for the better, were still people, and thus probably at least kind of an asshole. Now, Tolkien and Martin are actually really good examples here, because for one thing, they both did a really good job presenting their worldview, and for another, they're really not as opposed as people seem to think.
There we go.
And here's the kicker. They both delved into realism. Yeah, really. While Game of Thrones is much more low fantasy and low magic than Lord of the Rings, neither author shied away from the realistic human element of their respective adventures. George R. R. Martin doesn't shy away from showing a character pooping themselves, but Tolkien also delved into some pretty intense psychological misery when he wrote Sam and Frodo struggling immensely to make their way through Mordor, tired and miserable and forgetting the taste of food. The scenario was fantastical, but the characters reacted in very realistic ways. And someone who fought in World War II would be pretty qualified to describe the malingering effects of dragging yourself through a war zone and forgetting what it felt like to be anywhere else. Plus, if you've ever read the Silmarillion, Tolkien's not exactly an idealist, and he certainly doesn't shy away from the gross stuff. There's plenty of incest and murder. I mean, he did base it on Norse mythology. The only real difference between these two is the framing of the world. Tolkien's fantasy world can be saved. Heroism and moral righteousness pay off, and the good guys save the day. Martin, not so much. Delving into court intrigue and political power plays mean a lot more assassinations and a lot less actual good getting done. Can this world be saved? I mean, probably, but not by any of these guys who are so caught up in their personal squabbles they literally can't agree if fighting the endless zombie death army is a good idea or not. In any other year, I'd have called that unrealistic. While Martin fits the grimdark aesthetic more, he's really not as steeped in it as some people think. And the idealist high fantasy he's pitted against has a lot more in common with his work than some people would like to admit. Now, there's one very...
Yeah, you see, you thought I was disagreeing with the video. Again, it helps to watch it before doing these kinds of things. Which I did in this case. I don't usually do that for these reactions, but I feel like it's important with this because there's a more complex discussion at place here. Yeah, as mentioned here, they aren't that far apart. And what's good is that I think both myself and her in this discussion see it in that discussion point, you know, that we are essentially talking about the same works. There are works out there that are way darker than George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire. by a long shot. Again, I keep mentioning Elric, and I keep mentioning Devilman and all of that, but another example is Prince of Thorns, which is a really grim series, I think. Very bleak, very violent, very cruel. And one thing, too, that's worth... What? Yeah, no, it's fun. These are good videos. Here's the thing. Just because I'm criticizing this one video does not mean I disagree with it on a fundamental level. I think there's a lot of good stuff here. What I think I get down to it, and we'll get to it as we go on, certain perspectives that I feel kind of miss the mark. But we'll get to that later. This is more the back end I disagree with than the front end. But I gotta offer something interesting, some commentary, some transformative discussion to merit this reaction stream. Because otherwise, some people just watch these and just go, oh yeah, that's true. No, that's wrong. No, that's true. No, that's wrong. And that's not interesting to anyone. But I think the engagement in this idea is very important. I do think, though, it is a bit of a misservice to just say that Tolkien's Silmarillion has dark stuff with incest, although it does. Numenor is a very interesting point as well, and there are some Lovecraftian elements of the Silmarillion that people don't talk about enough. But I digress. Yeah, I think Joe Abercrombie though is the king of grimdark. No one has ever done that genre as well as Joe Abercrombie. I'm seeing people mention Joe Abercrombie there. Abercrombie is bleak. There is no joy. That's worse than I think Joe Abercrombie's darker than Kentaro Miura with Berserk.
The interesting thing about Grimdark, since the no real happy endings rule is pretty definite, that kind of rules out most plot-driven storytelling. It's hard to get an audience invested in the outcome if it's guaranteed to be unpleasant. In light of that, most Grimdark narratives end up being either character-driven or theme-driven. We can get invested in characters no matter how morally dubious they might be, and a lot of Grimdark stories sell us completely on the character dynamics and convince us to root for an ending that has no good impact on the world overall, but provides some kind of closure for the characters. The ending doesn't even really need to be that satisfying if it leaves us feeling the right kind of unpleasant. For instance, The Last of Us got the...
Okay, so I'm going to put a pause right there and bring it back to Berserk, because that conversation was before, right? We're talking about Berserk. Berserk's ending doesn't really matter. Because, it hasn't ended yet, so that's one factor. But I remember people even thinking that when Miura passed away, if they just didn't do anything else with Berserk, and that was just how it stopped, that would be enough. Like, there's a sense of personal characters growing into, the personal process of processing pain, processing trauma, finding people to bond in pain and finding some solace in the face of horror. That's very beautiful, I think, with how Berserk ended during Miura's lifetime. Well, after his lifetime, too, to an extent. And there's something beautiful about that sense of recovery and the idea of fighting against forces beyond your understanding. That while Guts can fight demons and can fight the apostles and can fight the God Hand, it's not necessarily... There's never a clear shot at how we can stop the God Hand, stop Berserk, stop the idea of evil itself. You really can't slice concepts apart with your sword, no matter how hard you try. Though he does try. And there's the idea that Griffith becomes kind of an antichrist figure, someone who is able to convince the world that he is the way, and indeed does make the world kind of better in the scheme of things. But he does it through the worst ways possible, by ways that compromise society. And it's the themes and ideas that drive the narrative. I think, anyway. And that is less plot-driven and more idea-driven, more character-driven. Especially Guts. There's a great scene, and again, this is something that Lady Emily in her Berserk video highlights too, but I think it was, as someone who's dealt with trauma in his life, it really resonated with me personally. There's a scene... If you don't know, in Berserk, it deals with a lot of heavy stuff. There's a scene in Berserk where early on where Guts is prostituted as a child, essentially. Very disturbing stuff. And he's assaulted. He's an assault survivor. And when he meets with Casca, there is a scene where he is They're intimate for the first time. And he is extremely defensive. He reflexively resists. Not because he doesn't want to be with her, but because it's his instinct to fight if he's ever vulnerable. And is a very gentle scene where they slowly ease into a more intimate circumstance. It's beautiful, I think. But it's a case where pain defines the character of Guts, defines the character of Casca, defines all these characters. The pain and trauma leads them to understanding where they stand in things. And there is no hope that it's going to solve anything with the world, but there is the character's exploration of pain and trauma and how they can overcome it through proximity. And ironically, paradoxically, it's when they're torn apart by circumstance that Guts and Casca both surrender to trauma and pain in a way that's hard to watch. And only in their being reunited and recovering slowly do they find a new way out. But that's a whole discussion for the day. Maybe. Who knows? We'll see if it comes up here.
The audience to root for Joel and Ellie to get along. From the beginning, we sympathize with Joel, but he still acts like a jerk. And we like Ellie, because, let's face it, she was handcrafted to be sassy and lovable. This causes us to root for Joel's character development to make him less of a jerk, because we want to see Ellie happy, and she's invested in him being nicer to her. And when Joel starts opening up, that lets us get invested in their dynamic and root for it to improve. Some Grimdark goes even darker for the resolution. Various issues of Sin City successfully guide the audience to root for the protagonist to die. Yeah, it mostly works because the characters come across as very lost and purposeless, except for their gritty determination to either murder somebody or protect somebody at all costs. They convince you over and over again that for these characters, dying after successfully doing their one thing is the only satisfying conclusion. How grim. And dark. And then there's theme-driven Grimdark, where the characters are basically...
Sin City is grimdark neo-noir by a mile. There are no happy endings in Sin City. The good thing about Sin City, though, is that the stories are short. That the characters don't... Their tragic story has a very clear, definitive beginning, middle, and end, and then it moves on to the next story, the next narrative. And that works really well for Sin City. I don't think Sin City would work with one central protagonist for a long period of time. I don't think anyway.
Exemplary victims of the horribleness of the scenario they're stuck in. Grimdark themes often explore cosmic horror, hopelessness in the face of overwhelming force, the terrors of authoritarianism, and basically anything that boils down to this sucks and I can't do anything about it. These stories are ways to...
Now, one thing I want to point out, too, that's very interesting, is that Red is pointing to works from before the two through lines that were initially in that first discussion, the Dark Comics and Warhammer 40k. And that's important because it does show that she's acknowledging that the genre did exist in some form before those two works. I just want to highlight that so no one takes it that I'm saying that she said something she didn't say. That's important to me. I don't want to put words in her mouth. But yeah, no. Oh, especially Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. That work is extremely bleak. I feel like Am has become something of a meme on TikTok recently, where people keep referencing, oh, Am, one of the best, worst evil villains of all time. But, like, Am is more of a device in the narrative to push the sense of absolute hopelessness. Am is utter cruelty. He is frightening on a level beyond anything else, but he's frightening because of the sheer vulnerability the characters have in the face of him. And of course, in the game when he's voiced by Harlan Ellison himself, there's such a pain but manic glee in that voice. It is horrifying. And of course, even the title, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Pure grimdark. And Am is a victim, yeah, but Am victimizes the world. So it's hard to even feel bad for Am. That's what's so wild about it. Ugh, brilliant, brilliant storytelling. Also, I'd say, and I forget if she mentions this or not, the worlds of Cormac McCarthy are very grimdark as well. Blood Meridian is a Western, ultimately, but it's very grimdark in its structure.
to explore deeply unpleasant scenarios. Books like 1984 do so specifically as a political warning, and many post-apocalypses are similarly theme-driven to get across that, hey kids, destroying the world is probably bad. But you also get a certain amount of overlap, where a character-driven narrative still explores a central theme, like humanity or the loss of humanity, which is quite popular, or even something really specific, like how Mad Max Fury Road is about the pointlessness of searching for a perfect promised land instead of putting in the hard work to build the best life you can from what you have. But for all that, it can kind of be hard to see the appeal.
I feel that's a factor too, as well as women aren't property, but I think that's like a specific character one.
Of Grimdark. Like, for me, personally, I have pretty simple tastes. I like heroes, and I like happy endings, and I don't really have that much patience for edgier-than-thou nihilism. I can understand the appeal of more nuanced stories with bittersweet endings or unconventional protagonists, but Grimdark as a genre kinda strips away everything that I personally like about stories and storytelling. It's hard for me to get invested. I want characters I can root for playing out arcs that I want to see resolved. For the longest time, I didn't get the appeal at all. And then I watched Chicago. Now I'm gonna be clear, Chicago does not fit the grimdark aesthetic. It's a dang movie musical. It's all glitz and glamour and all that jazz. But there are no heroes. Every single protagonist is a terrible human being. There's no interest in morality. The protagonists are all murderers trying to avoid legal consequences for their actions and the lawyer helping them do it. And the outcome that you're theoretically rooting for is a total miscarriage of justice. And there's really no hope for a happy ending because it's clear from minute one that the protagonist Roxy kinda sucks and really can't make it in showbiz like she wants, and that what she's mistaken for her fame is just her 10 minutes in the spotlight because of the murder she did. There's no one to root for, and there's no happy ending. I should have been clicking back over to Dragon Ball Z 10 minutes in, but I didn't. And it took me a little while to figure out why. It's because the characters were well written and inherently compelling, and while none of them were headed for a happy ending, some of them were heading for karmically satisfying ones. Watching these terrible people from a third-person omniscient perspective lets you really appreciate how terrible they are, and then you get to watch their dreams die as they crash and burn. It's oddly satisfying, like a story without heroes that still lets you watch a villain get their third act comeuppance. Now that's one reason Grimdark can be...
So here's one thing too I think is interesting about the discussion. Now that's not... Now again, I want to make sure no one's confused. She's not saying that Chicago is grimdark. What she's talking about though is the more nihilistic world, the idea of a gray and gray morality where no one's a hero. But the world of Chicago is not grimdark. It's just Chicago, which you can say the real life is grimdark. But I think that's a little naive to say that the world is all darkness and gloom. There's always optimism and hope. But the characters are just terrible people. I do say this, though, that is interesting. What she's describing is a tragedy. What she's describing is the classic structure of a tragedy. By that same logic, then, a work like Death of a Salesman would be grimdark, or at least in that same ballpark. Because that world is very bleak. It's a world where there is no happy ending. Have I been to Chicago? No, I have not, but I wish I have. I really want to go to Chicago. I think it's interesting, though, how we look at that. It's the idea that, and again, I want to point this out. Red states her bias early on. She wants stories where they are heroes, where there is triumph, where there is hope, where there is action. And that's a preference, and that's something I also like, so I can't fault anyone for that. I love all that stuff too. But the tragedy of these works, it's very cathartic, I think. I think a lot of grimdark stories are effective because they communicate emotion. You know, I keep referencing Berserk. I keep referencing horror films like Last House on the Left. There are works like that which are deeply grimdark. And there are works that are deeply upsetting, too. I think an example of a work that stuck with me for years, that is hopeless, truly hopeless, is Martyrs. The French extreme film Martyrs. If you don't know what Martyrs is about, I'm going to explain to you in the most PG way possible. The movie itself is extremely disturbing, and I don't want to say too much, but it's a movie about this girl. The movie opens up with this young girl. She's running away from this facility, obviously in physical distress. And she goes to an orphanage. She's rescued. She meets this girl. Years later, we cut back to a house. It's the same house it's the same location she ran away from, but now it's like a home with a family in it. And there's a knock at the door, and it's the girl grown up from the beginning of the movie, and she's got a shotgun. And the first half of the film, we just see this girl losing her mind. We don't know what she wants. We know that she thinks that there's something extremely dangerous in this house and she's getting revenge on the people who wronged her. But we don't know if these people have anything to do with that. And she calls her friend from the orphanage to come over, and like, she's terrified, she's horrified by all this. And you're not sure what's going on. You don't give enough information, and then the second half kicks in. And it enters into true hopelessness, a place where the plot stops. There's no... Once the second half of the film starts, you know there's no resolution to this conflict. There's no good resolution, I should say. There's a resolution, but it's taken out of the character's hands. And it's pure hopelessness. But there is something hauntingly beautiful about it. It's a beautiful, beautiful narrative, but it's also deeply upsetting. And I think what appeals to me personally about a story like that is not that there is a tragedy. It's actually very unsatisfying in many ways, deliberately so. It's deliberately unsatisfying. Because it's cathartic. It hits something in the soul. It hits a fear. Hits unpleasantness. Hits a part of your soul that shouldn't be touched. And it draws it out. Takes it out. Exaggerates it. Plays around with it. And leaves you feeling a sense of just awfulness. But some stories need to make you feel awful. I think anyway. I don't know. That's my thought process. But let's keep going.
Be appealing, but it's not the only reason. I asked Twitter for some thoughts on the appeals and pitfalls of Grimdark and found a few recurring themes in the answers. One of those themes is catharsis by proxy.
There we go.
When a character we relate to on any level goes through something emotionally intense, we, the audience, feel it from a distance. Catharsis, the process of releasing very strong or repressed emotions, can feel very freeing or satisfying, even if the emotions involved are miserable or exhausting. So a character in a Grimdark narrative going through the absolute emotional ringer can provide the audience with a feeling of catharsis without having to go through the actual bad stuff.
Exactly.
Of course, this isn't unique to Grimdark. Any story can do it, even one as quote-unquote idealistic as Lord of the Rings or as child-friendly and simplistic as any shonen anime. But it is an appeal, and it shouldn't be discounted. Now the other...
That is very true. Again, she's right. Is Irreversible the same? Irreversible's worse. Somehow Irreversible's worse than Martyrs. I don't know how Irreversible got that terrible, but oh my god, that movie's awful. I mean, it's incredible, but it's awful. I hate Irreversible, but it's so good. Oh my god, Irreversible's horrifying. Oh my god, that's a movie I haven't been able to rewatch. That movie hit me on a level that was just, it was too upsetting to me. Oh, have I seen Banshees of Inisherin? Yes, I love Banshees of Inisherin. It's a great movie. Not Grimdark at all. That's just a tragedy, I think. It's a story about Ireland, really. Banshees of Inisherin. It's the story of Ireland. Two friends who just divide over arbitrary reasons and decide to go on a needless, cruel war. In some ways, it's a very simplified version. What is Irreversible? It's another. I think it's French Extreme. Yeah, it's a story about a woman is assaulted, and starts with the whole movie's told in reverse. So the first scene of the movie you see, is the revenge against, it's the revenge, and the last scene you see is the assault itself, and I don't want to say what happens because you really, on some level, I recommend you watch it, but. Oh my god, it's horrible. It's horribly upsetting. And the way it ends, what you learn when you see that scene, it completely changes the way you see the rest of the movie. Like there is a twist, I guess you can call it. You know what's coming, but there's a twist to how it happens. And it completely changes the context of everything that came before it. It's truly awful. I hate it. I hate that movie so much, but it's so brilliant. Oh, God, it's upsetting. Yeah, no. Irreversible is a painful movie to sit through. It hurts your soul. It really does hurt your soul. It's a great movie though. But I can't recommend it to anyone. I really can't. I don't think it's a movie you should watch, but you should see it. Um, Okay, a couple super chats real quick because I'm bored. Thank you for super chat. I thought the main character got what she wanted in Chicago. She teamed up with her friend and became a star based on their murders. Yeah, that's the irony of the story. That's the irony of it. That's the irony of the resolution. Smajete, I can't say your name, so I'm not trying to pronounce it. Have you ever read the comic Irredeemable? No, I have not, but I know of it. I've not read that one though. Gavin Carrot, thank you, super chat. What do you think of grimdark stories in non-grimdark series? Oh, well, that's an interesting idea, like a genre shift. There's some good ones. Though I can't think of anything that's truly grimdark in non-grimdark settings. Grimdark isn't just like a narrative in a world. It's kind of an all-encompassing thing, I feel like. Also, here's the thing. We have to separate horror from grimdark. Like Jacob's Ladder, I don't think of as grimdark, for example. I know someone in chat mentioned Jacob's Ladder. I don't think Jacob's Ladder's... That's not grimdark. I think it's very optimistic, actually, Jacob's Ladder, which is bizarre. Anyway, Silent Hill. Silent Hill, the town is grim, but you can just leave Silent Hill in theory. Or you can't, depending on how it works. But that's more... The world is fine. It's more this one corner of the world that's a problem.
Common theme I found was perspective. A character in a grimdark narrative goes through a lot. If the audience compares the character's experience to their own life, instead of relating to that character and feeling for that character, they might end up feeling a sense of relief. Like, hey, things are lousy, but at least I didn't just get stabbed by my own dudes or bitten by zombies. It's like the relief of waking up from a nightmare. The nightmare sucked and you don't want to do it again, but realizing it's not real can be very soothing. A whole lot of things you were worrying about suddenly don't matter anymore. Now, while this can work, it only really works if the audience doesn't care about the character. Audiences can get very invested, and it doesn't necessarily matter if their own life is really comfortable if their favorite fictional character is having a really bad time. They might go, better them than me, or they might send the author death threats. It is interesting to note, by the way, that both perspective and catharsis by proxy only work if they're a form of negative escapism. People who actually deal with very upsetting stuff on a daily basis, like grief counselors, people struggling with personal trauma, etc., often actively avoid all things grimdark and favor much more lighthearted, optimistic media. If grimdark is like a cold shower, a quick bout of misery to energize you for the rest of the day, then you can see why it wouldn't seem too appealing for someone who spends the rest of their day in the emotional equivalent of an ice bath. There was also an interesting answer I noticed.
Okay, so this is something I really disagree with her on, actually. This is where I really disagree with her on. Okay. So, BJ Angelo. No, that's not her. Correct. Last name. How you say it? She's really cool. What's her name? Sorry, I'm just cheating slightly to make sure I get her name correct because she's really cool. Yep. Colangelo. Sorry. BJ Colangelo has worked on a blog for many years where she outlined a lot of assault revenge. YouTube gets picky about the phrasing of it. Assault and revenge movies, and how she was drawn to them as a survivor of assault. I believe she was a survivor of assault herself, and was drawn to that darkness and saw a lot of catharsis in the works themselves. Whereas a lot of people would dismiss the genre. And this includes movies like I Spit in Your Grave and Last House on the Left to an extent. She found a lot of catharsis watching them as a survivor because she could relate to the pain on screen. There was a real humanistic element, the idea of presenting vulnerability in a way that is catharsis to allow yourself to go through the pain again and reprocess it through the eyes of this trauma. And again, here's the thing. A lot of people who have suffered horribly are not drawn to this media. It's not everyone who experiences media through this lens. I think the problem is that in this video, we're talking about it as and again, my biggest issues are not with the genre itself, but more the discussion of how we interact with media. And that's a key thing too. It's the idea that when you experience this subject matter, you're able to go, okay, hang on. Here's my life experience. Let's replay it. Let's go through it again. It's a way of processing what's happened to us or to oneself and any given, whatever it might be that caused you to have that pain. And you go, okay, here's the pain, here's the fear, the vulnerability, and or the hopelessness. And here's how I can survive, or here's how it can destroy someone, and kind of processing your feelings about that through the instruments of fiction. Some people do need more optimistic stories because they've seen a lot of trauma and pain. That is very true. But others use art as a means to express the complicated, indescribable pain of narrative, of experience. It's a good way to compartmentalize pain, and it's a good way to deconstruct your own trauma. But that's complicated. That's not always easy. It's hard to do a one-size-fits-all whole for how we process pain. And I have no idea what Red's personal life experiences are. It could be very much that she might have experienced trauma and is averse to media that makes her relive any of that pain. That's highly possible. Or maybe she hasn't. I have no idea. I don't know her personally. But, you know, it is also fair to say that some people who have had that trauma can go through media and process their pain cathartically through dark media. That's one of the reasons why I always have a hard time discussing. And again, I don't think she's saying anything that says that's not fair or that's not the case. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that that's just something that wasn't mentioned in the video, and given, at least not mentioned at this point in the video. And in terms of discussion of how that pain can be, because catharsis doesn't just work like, oh, my life is so much, you know, it's not like the song. The one song that they did back in the 80s where they go like, oh, you know, tonight, thank God it's them instead of you. No, it's like, that's not only why, that one Christmas song, that's not the only reason why people watch that kind of media. They watch it sometimes because it is them. It is them. That pain they're feeling, it's what they feel on some level, just taken to the nth degree. Exaggerated, emphasized, personified in some cases. And that's trickier to do. That's trickier to discuss. Because it's kind of painful for anyone to even just explore that personal subject matter unless you've gone through it and unless you feel that sense of catharsis yourself. And it's also hard to understand that, too, unless you've been through that. There's tons of people I know who have dealt with trauma and prefer to watch Disney films, you know? And that's justified. It's their comfort media. They're allowed that. And it's good media. You know, there's nothing wrong with liking Disney films. I like Disney films. And on occasion, you need to watch a good Disney movie. But I'll also go out of my way to find stuff like, you know, Longlegs, which is very depressing and bleak. Or Oz Perkins in general. His stuff's really good. Haven't seen The Monkey yet, though. Here's really good. But yeah, that's just something about the catharsis argument I find that I have a little argument against. That's all. Let's take a look real quick what we have right here. So, a couple super chats. Nutter the Butter. Want to know what's more upsetting? Learning that Akio from Revolutionary Utena is basically Donald Trump? I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think he's Donald Trump. He's more general than Donald Trump. Way less specific of the specific personality. I'm not going to go talk about Trump right now because I'm doing all my best to ignore that Trump exists when talking about media. But yeah, no, I can see elements of Trump, but I wouldn't say he is Trump. That's the difference there, I'd say. Baichiapiodera, thank you for super chat. What about the people who think that all things of other genres like cyberpunk need to be grimdark? That's a problem. Anyone who thinks that all media needs to be a certain way are wrong, in my opinion. They're very wrong. You need to have the diversity of thought and expectations, I think. The Guy, 493, thank you for being a member for 7 months. It's the stories that really matter, Samwise Gamgee. Yeah, exactly. They're the stories that really matter. Yeah, the ones that are painful and hurt, but also could be so real. WC Witt, thank you for Super Chat. What you're saying right now, Ant, is why I Saw the TV Glow was my favorite film of 2024. Yeah, actually, that is why I'm saying it. That's a great example of art expressing personal pain. In a way, it's really powerful. Big Man Enjoyer, thank you for the Super Chat. Everyone processes trauma differently. I think she was grasping at straws to find appeal to something she just doesn't like, which, fair enough. Yeah, I agree. It is fair enough. That's another reason why I am not mad at this video. I'm not angry that I disagree with it. That's one thing I want people to understand. This is not coming from anger, it's coming from intellectual disagreement. There's some creators who do make me angry, like Jar or Lily Orchard. OSP has never been and probably never will be one of those guys. A difference of opinion is the way of putting it, I think. But in a way that's to be discussed intellectually, to be discussed on an on this kind of basis, what have you. Appeal 3, struggling against hopeless odds. And this is where Berserk, I think, falls in too. So we'll keep going. Big Man Enjoyer. I like big men. That's fair enough. Hey, that's cool. That's totally cool.
Where some people suggested that seeing characters struggle even in the face of utter hopelessness was encouraging.
Just love the frankness of it. It's great.
I'm gonna be honest, that one doesn't make any sense to me, because Grimdark prides itself on screwing over those exact characters. If you want to see persistence in the face of hopelessness be rewarded, you can look to any other genre of fiction. Grimdark is pretty much the only one that'll swat you in the face with a wet towel and call you a dork for believing the universe would ever reward a heroic effort. And if it doesn't do that, it's not Grimdark. I guess the bottom line is Grimdark.
So here's something I don't understand with this response. I actually do love the idea of resisting against a hopeless situation. That's one of the reasons why I like Berserk, because Berserk does feel like a hopeless situation, but they still fight all the same. But Guts still fights all the same. Devilman, same thing. Though it is a hopeless situation, but the fight continues. It's not just hopeless in his world, but it's a cycle of pain. It's a cycle beyond the universe itself, yet the fight continues. Even right into Violence Jack, which is in the continuity of Devilman. It's the problem here with this discussion is that, and again, this is a matter of personal preference. Obviously, she doesn't find that appealing. And hey, listen, you don't like it, you don't like it. No one should say otherwise. It would be ethically wrong of me to say you're wrong for not liking a thing I like. That's completely ridiculous and self-centered to say that. What I am saying is, though, that the difference here is that she's conflating overcoming hopeless odds with being the appeal. That's not what the appeal is, though. The appeal is resisting hopeless odds that are still hopeless. And there's a difference. The big difference being, of course, that you don't beat the hopeless odds. You beat an obstacle. With Guts in Berserk, he can stop one of the apostles. He can stop a monster. But he can't change the flow of the world with his actions. Not yet, anyway. And there is the pursuit, the endless pursuit that I find interesting. That's cathartic. That's relatable. What is history but one long defeat, as Tolkien would say? What is anything but one long defeat? That eventually all things will wilt, crumble, decay, disappear. There is an appeal to that. There's a powerful appeal to that. It's a powerful narrative structure. But that's why I think the difference is here. I think she just misunderstands it, but I also think she doesn't appeal to her. That's fine. That's totally fine. I don't want to force anyone to get anything, but I do want to just discuss that difference of a perspective. And I guess what the point is, why would that appeal to someone? Why would you want to read something or watch something or play something where it's hopeless? You can't win ultimately. Well, it's because true bravery comes at the face of a situation you know you can't win. It's the idea that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you fight, you will eventually fall. But you refuse to buckle down. You refuse to take a knee and surrender to hopelessness. Even in the face of Armageddon, you continue to fight for the vain hope that something can happen. Yes, the world is hopeless, but that hope has not stopped in your heart, even if on a personal level. Fighting for survival, fighting for one life. Cormac McCarthy has a book he wrote years ago called The Road. It was made into a movie, it's pretty good too, where the world's doomed. There's no hope. It's done. It's a hopeless, hopeless world. And yet the characters continue to fight to survive till tomorrow. But why? Tomorrow's not going to be any better than today or yesterday. It's all going to be miserable. Yet they still persevere to exist. That's the thing right there. You look at No Country for Old Men, another Cormac McCarthy story. Very famous movie based on it. The whole idea is that the world is getting worse and worse, and that there is no good, there is no evil, there is only forces that can and cannot be stopped. And why does the Texas Ranger keep fighting? He retires basically by the end, but the world is so far gone, but he still never really gave up his way. In that case, the fighting when all things are hopeless, that's more being stuck in a rut. And that's something very interesting to read, a very tragic situation. And I'm oversimplifying it, of course. It's more complex than I'm describing it. I'm going off memory of a movie I saw years ago and a book I read even longer ago. But at the same time, it's still that kind of mentality, that even though the world is hopeless, you continue to persevere. And that's true bravery. Oh yeah, Blood Meridian is McCarthy's grimmest work, I think. It's truly hopeless in a way that's deeply unsettling. But yeah, I think that's the fight of it. It's not about winning. This victory is not the appeal. And if you're looking for a story where the plot resolves itself by overcoming insurmountable odds, then you're not going to get Grimdark, because it's not that kind of story. It's not about overcoming anything. It's about making it to tomorrow. And for a lot of people, just making it to tomorrow is a victory, I don't want to get existential or anything, but there is a joy to surviving, even if it's survival in a world that is miserable. There is a beauty to it, even just to persevere, even if it's a world without hope. And I think Grimdark really emphasizes that idea so well, because these are worlds beyond hope. Whatever problems we're facing in reality, they can be solved. Everything in our world can be solved and have been solved in ways that's incredible and stunning. Life is not grimdark. I don't think anyway. But the grimdark worlds are. It takes the idea that what we think life to be at our worst moments and says, it is like that. It is this bad. It is this terrible. And you either vibe with that mentality that the world is hopeless but you survive all the same, or you don't vibe with it. And that's fine. That's why genre is so interesting. Different genres are different. They have different appeals, different concepts that draw you in. And frankly, you shouldn't have to be forced to love everything. Which is another reason why I wanted to discuss this video. Because there is something really revolutionary on YouTube about saying, here's the appeals why other people like this thing, but I don't like it. So I don't get it. And I'm not going to really vouch for it. There's something really brave about that, I think. Because online, you're expected to have an opinion about everything, and if the opinion of something is great, you're supposed to align with that, and you're supposed to love it. There is something revolutionary about saying, hey, I get why other people like this, but it's not for me. I don't get it. Here's why I don't get it, and here's why I think other people might get it, but I don't really see eye to eye with them. That's great. That's fantastic, actually. It's a remarkable thing to go online and say, hey, here's a video about this topic. I don't really like this topic, but I wanted to discuss it because I have strong feelings about it. That's important. And I think there's something really compelling about that, about the confidence to say with your full chest what you think. Even if you know you're going to piss some people off. That's great. I love that. That's something I highly respect. The confidence to say your opinion. Because online, so often, we're kind of told what to believe. And there's a whole thing, too, now as well. And this is not me being an old boomer. It's not my boomer arc. But a lot of younger people online are kind of afraid to buckle trend, to be unusual, to be out of the, to be cringe, you know? There's a fear of that. And it really sucks to see. I really hate seeing that. Because people should be allowed to have different opinions and have different ways of viewing the world without feeling like they have to conform to a certain mentality. It really sucks to see, because there's so many people who are in their 20s who are living with this fear of fitting in, like in high school still. And it sucks. It really sucks to watch. And that conformity is very dangerous, I think. The internet is there's so many videos now online. And I was talking to Krim about this before too. I think on Sunday's stream, I think this came up in conversation. So many videos just offer a surface level analysis of what's going on and no opinions, no real perspectives, because they're afraid to share their opinions. Or maybe they don't have a strong one, but they feel they have to talk about something and they feel like they don't want to rock the boat too much. I don't like that. I don't like when people do that. I do prefer if you share your opinion and it's well thought out, well phrased, articulate, but you go, you know what? Fuck it. I don't like it. I don't like this at all. This sucks. That's great. There was a video a while back that the AVGN did back when Ghostbusters 2016 was coming out. And at this time, Ghostbusters 2016 was getting all this hate. It was getting all this this backlash. And he went, you know what? I don't want to watch this movie. I don't like it. I don't like the concept of it. I don't like that it was made after Harold Ramis passed away. I want to see Ghostbusters 3. I'm not getting that. So I'm just not going to watch this movie. And he just publicly said, I don't want to watch it. And he got so much hate over that. Now, you can make arguments against the AVGN. So many people have. I'm not saying they are wrong. But I'm saying there is something revolutionary when someone says, hey, I don't want to do this thing. Look how much people got pissed off at Chris Stuckman when he said, I don't want to review Madam Web. You know it's bad. I don't want to review it. It's not fun for me to review this negative film. And people got angry at him. Like he was obligated to review a movie he didn't want to review. He can do whatever he wants. He runs his own channel. I've seen Madam Web. I can tell you it sucks. It was funny. I had more fun with it than Morbius. Actually, I will say this. Madam Web I liked more than Morbius. Probably a hot take, but Morbius did not make me laugh the same way that Madam Web did. I will say that. But, to be cringe is to be free. I made a whole video about Shadow the Hedgehog back in December about how Shadow was cringe. But because he was cringe, he was also free and loved and amazing. And there's a project I'm working on that's coming out. I've been working on it for a very long time. I'm hoping it will come out within next month. I might take a week off this month to fully devote to working on it, just because I can't get it done in time for a weekly video. It's too long. It's going to be at least 3 hours long, most likely. But I was interviewing the YouTuber Red Bard. And Red Bard I've known for a while. They're really cool. I really like Red Bard. But they were joking about like how they wanted to be someone that like their edgy high school self would think is cool. Like that's great to me. I love that. That's a cool mentality to have. I love that. So I think all of us really admire people who can stand out and not give a fuck what people think and just say what they want to say while still existing in this intellectual discussion. And that's one reason why I have a lot of respect for Red, and why I disagree with her. That's one thing why I do this video, because I do disagree. I don't think I agree with what she's saying, but I deeply respect that she's saying it. And it's not like how Lily Orchard says her things, where she says these asinine bullshit statements and then expects you to conform with it and says, if you don't believe me, you're ethically wrong. When Red says it, she's like, no, I don't get it. I get people like it, but it's not for me. When I'm saying it, I'm saying I get why she doesn't like it, but it is for me. And it's that kind of respectful mentality of it's a non-absolute statement. You know, it's how opinions work. People can be non-absolute on things. They can say, hey, I like this thing. Here's why I like it. And I get why you don't like it. And it's cool. And no one gets angry at people over it. The levels of vitriol we have online for people who just disagree with our opinions, as though we're arrogant enough to say our opinions are the absolute fact of anything. It's sickening, honestly. And it's exhausting to see people act as though their small opinions, because it happens to be more popular at this time, are somehow correct, that they're the right ones. You make an argument as to what something says, you make the argument compelling, you don't have to fucking like anything, you know? If you like something, you don't like something, that's cool, as long as you phrase it well. It's one reason why I hate those videos, though, like, is the MCU falling off? Like, well, I can say why I think it's falling off. I don't want to say it is objectively falling off, because it sucks, you know? Yeah, anyway, that's the whole thing there, I think. At least that's the core of my argument. But let's see what else he has to say, because there's still a few more minutes of video left.
Dark has appeal. I mean, obviously, enough people like it that it has to be doing something. Even though it's precision crafted to be generally unpleasant and miserable, it really does work for some people, and sometimes you're in the mood for a little catharsis by proxy. But it works best in moderation, and it's definitely not the be-all end-all pinnacle of fiction. It has its place, but so does the stuff it's a reaction against. Grimdark can be aggressively nihilistic, but the purpose of fiction is, in many cases, to inspire. And nihilism generally doesn't do that. In his 1993 essay, Let There Be Dragons, acclaimed Discworld author and all-around excellent dude Sir Terry Pratchett said something that I personally think is unimaginably beautiful and incidentally also describes 100% of my thoughts on Grimdark. The quote goes like this: "Why does the third of the three brothers, who shares his food with the old woman in the wood, go on to become the king of the country? Why does Bond manage to disarm the nuclear bomb a few seconds before it goes off, rather than, as it were, a few seconds afterwards? Because a universe where that did not happen would be a dark and hostile place. Let there be goblin hordes, let there be terrible environmental threats, let there be giant mutated slugs if you really must, but let there also be hope. It may be a grim, thin hope, an Arthurian sword at sunset, but let us know that we do not live in vain." Hope is the ultimate motivator. On some level, it's the only motivator. If it seems like I have personal beef with Grimdark as a genre, it's only the same beef I have with everything that treats hope like a dumb, childish concept rather than the fundamental core of human experience. Hope makes us believe things can be better. Once we stop believing that, we stop trying to make things better. And guess what? Then things don't get better. Pessimistic nihilism is the ultimate self-fulfilling prophecy, and maybe it's the 2020 talking, but man, I have straight up run out of patience with people who give up on a better world and then have the audacity to tell other people that they're naive or stupid for still trying. The Grimdark worldview preaches that everything sucks and nothing will make it better. If the ideal of the Grimdark genre is really struggle in the face of hopelessness, then act like it. Dare to believe the world can be better and fight for it. And if that's really the ideal of Grimdark, then why does every other genre do a better job of inspiring it? Grimdark can totally be fun, but man, don't let it define your worldview. So, yeah. And thanks to Worldland.
Yes, agreed. Agree with that entirely. The very end. Quoting Terry Pratchett, the cheat code. Yeah, it really is. But yeah, no, I agree with that entirely. I think that in general, you're gonna want to have work that is inspiring. You know, that's the key thing. I personally see it as part of a larger conversation. I think in general, you need to have what is called a well-rounded diet of media. It's one of the reasons why my channel is so eclectic in terms of subject matters. I'll talk about Sailor Moon the same week I'll talk about, like, friggin', like, Marquis de Sade. It's because I think that people need an eclectic diet of media. To be fully digesting one type or the other, it leaves you feeling like one mentality fits all. I think one of the... if you've never read Terry Pratchett, you should read Terry Pratchett. His work is fantastic. But I think one thing, too, that's worth discussing is that, especially now, you know, I used to go on a lot of the... I still sometimes, like, lurk on them, the politics subreddit and stuff like that. And everyone is so hopeless. Like, there is a reaction I noticed recently when... I'm going to use this example because it's recent and relevant to a lot of people. There was recently a bill that was brought to the House and Senate in the United States to ban trans athletes from sports, like in totality. And everyone on the political subreddit I saw was like, well, that's it. There's nothing that can stop this. It's going to pass. And there were some people who were like, no, let's call our senators. Let's call our House representatives. Let's get this moving. Let's fight this. Let's oppose this. Let's present to people that this is not okay. And the people in this subreddit were like, no, it's hopeless. There's no point. It's nothing. You can't stop it. It's going to happen. We're all going to fall apart into a fascist dictatorship. It's all ruined. But people called the senators. They called their House reps. And eventually, just yesterday, that bill was blocked. Enough people did enough about it, even though there was all this press saying how, this bill's, you should let Trump have this. You should let the Republicans have this bill. They opposed it. They fought for it, and it was resisted. Now, who's to say that tomorrow another bill won't come up just like it and cause problems? There's nothing that can say that. It could happen any day. But that's victory. That is proof that even in a hopeless situation, there is still a chance for hope for many people in the United States. There is still hope. And that's important. And fiction offers you that opportunity to have hope. But I think the counterbalance with Grimdark is that Grimdark shows you that you can have hope for a better tomorrow in a seemingly hopeless world. Sometimes. Some work, it's like, well, there's no hope ever, and hope is a childish fantasy. And those works, I don't gravitate as much to as the works that show perseverance in the face of inevitable odds. That just surviving till tomorrow is a victory. There will always be triumphs. And even then, with people talking about climate change, the world burning, there is evidence that the world is getting into a position where we could actually avoid the worst of what's happening. There are things sliding into place. Yes, the greenhouse gases are escalating. Yes, temperatures are rising, but there is still technology around that indicates that we could overcome this. There is evidence about emissions on a global scale, countries cutting back their means, technology that can maybe even do some reverse engineering of the environment. And there have been strives over the last 5, 10, even this year to push for that better tomorrow. But if you walk around thinking the world's hopeless, you'll never get that. You'll never get that. You'll never get to that point. And that's the thing that she's talking about, that people shouldn't feel like they are beyond hope. And hell, this came out 4 years ago. September 25th, 2020. Just a month and a half later, Biden would be elected. The vaccine would be more widely available. There was hope. There was a victory for those who are suffering from COVID, from suffering from isolation in the face of the pandemic. So there was hope. There is hope in that sense. And there is always hope. Adrian Parchman, thank you for Super Chat. The Pandora's box, after everything, hope is left. Yeah, exactly. Oh, LSI Tyler's here. I saw that. I didn't see you there. Hey, what's up, man? I've learned my parents like caring about my life drama on YouTube through him more than me. It's just so funny. Anyway, yeah, no, 100%. It's funny though. I think it's very funny that how throughout all of this there is always a chance of survival. Not always guaranteed. I think you need the balance of media though. You need to have the balance of the bleakness of Grimdark and the optimism of the heroic's journey. I think that saying one or the other is what you need is kind of a problem. I also think the omission of Berserk from this video is a glaring oversight on Red's part. But, for a manga and anime enthusiast to ignore Berserk and Devilman is a bit of an oversight. But that's my nitpicks for a video more centered on like Western Grimdark than American Grimdark. And then International Grimdark. A big man enjoyer whose name is I find a lot of entertainment in. I was accidentally late to my therapy appointment yesterday, and you're making up for it, Aunt. Thank you legitimately. Oh, I appreciate that. I really do. No, but that's life, Like, hey, listen, the world is not all terrible, but it's not all good either. There is authentically some of the worst things in society out there that you deal with and see on a regular basis. And there are people who play with that misery for profit. There's been a lot of discussion about the news media and all that, exploiting stories and trauma and all that. That sucks. That really sucks. Commentating on it is one thing. We all gotta talk about our feelings. We gotta discuss this because the news hits us hard and continuously. But there are people who make it into a football game, or into like a. I'm not saying anyone here does that, or even anyone on YouTube. Well, some people on YouTube do. But like the other day, I was watching, doing last week's stream. I was looking at Geeks and Gamers. They did a reaction to the rumor that Kathleen Kennedy was retiring. She has since come out to say, no, I'm not retiring yet. So that news might be false. Or maybe it's premature. Maybe she's planning on retiring, but it's more the succession plan is coming into place. I digress. But Geeks and Gamers said, you know what? Kathleen Kennedy's going. And they went on like a 5-minute tangent about how Donald Trump was the thing for it. Which is so ridiculous. There was a Newsweek article that came out recently. I'm not sure if you saw it or not. Talking about how in Win or Lose, Disney has their first openly Christian character in 20 years. And I'm like, well, what's the show what's the character? He prayed for a minute. Not a minute. He had like 2 lines where he prayed to God. That was the Christian character. That was him. That was it. It was ridiculous. Very ridiculous. The guy 493, thank you for super chat. 49 years ago, New York Harbor was near lifeless. Now the oyster beds and wildlife are returning. 100%. She says she's outright not okay. Neon Zephyr. She's outright said she's not retiring. She said she'll make movies till she dies. She's just stepping down from that specific position. There we go. That's the key. So she might be doing more independent work. That's better. You know what? Kathleen Kennedy's best work was when she was working outside of that. Like when she was working on, and that she'll help find a replacement. She has to. The succession plan is important. And Kathleen Kennedy, don't forget, she's a fantastic producer. People know her from Star Wars. She's the reason you have The Sixth Sense. Jurassic Park. Back to the Future, I believe she was involved with as well. She was instrumental in so many great movies. But, she did Star Wars, so all these people online who think they know about movies act like they're the experts on it. Anyway, ultimately speaking, this is a great video, I think. I think all of OSP's work is really great. This I just disagree with. But I still think it's great because of how much she does not give a fuck what people think. It's great. And that kind of oppositional perspective is so vital for this landscape of YouTube. There are so many critics who just talk about whatever's popular, and then that's it. They buckle at that trend, and then they stop. I don't want to be that. Hey, listen, the Sailor Moon video didn't do that great. Did all right. I got comments saying, why'd you do Sailor Moon? Because I wanted to. That's why I did it. Because I wanted to. Oh, it's cringe. I don't give a fuck. I did it because it was fun. This is a business, yes. YouTube is a business. And I do want to make things that you find entertaining. The reason I'm bummed out was because you didn't find it as fun as I did. But I don't regret making it. That's what it comes down to. I had a good time making that video. I'm very proud of it. I think it's a really good video. The people who hated it just by the side of the thumbnail, okay. You're allowed to. The people who didn't watch it, that's okay. You're allowed not to. Next video I make, I hope will be more appealing to your interests. It's a video about 80s fantasy and AI. Oh yeah, we're going modern here, I'm going to show you some of the most disgusting things possible on YouTube. AI-generated Nintendo characters as 80s fantasy. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying stuff. But I'm going to show it to you. And you'll probably like it. And a few of you might even click on it. I'll still do what I want to do, though. Because I think at the end of the day, you come here to watch me talk, not because I'm going to tell you what you want to hear, but because you want to hear what I have to say. And that's cool. That's a great thing. It's something I wouldn't be able to do in a situation without the internet. It's something Red wouldn't be able to do without the internet. Because at the end of the day, we are living on a world where our individual opinions matter. And that's a really cool thing. Have you heard Neuralius is back? Yes, I have heard Neuralius is back. Oh, I missed your $10 super chat? No, I'll go back. Oh, Kevin Gareth, you missed my $10 super chat? No, don't worry, I'll go look. 1 second. Let me go look. Oh, by Chippy O'Dara, hot take, Blues vids are better than Reds vids. Oh, fights. Fighting words. Oh, I see it now. Yes, I missed a few super chats. Let me fix that. Oh, no, I missed any of these. Okay, there's a few I missed. 1 second, let me get these right now. Heart Wolf, thank you for super chat. Being able to disagree with people we respect is a skill I think more of us need to practice. 100%. We need to practice that more. We need to respect everyone. That's not true. There's some people we don't have to respect. But we need to respect people whose opinions we think are good. If we find them compelling, if we find them, interesting, let's talk to them. Let's engage. The Guy, 493, thank you for super chat. I actually find it inspiring that Tolkien still found hope and believed good was worth fighting for after seeing the worst of the Western Front. 100%. That war broke people. That is one of the most frightening wars in history for a reason. It's terrible, terrible stuff. Black Rabbit, thank you for super chat. Been following OSP for years and was getting worried my need to constantly find dark media / not find paragons entirely compelling was a worrying sign. Thanks for helping to put my disagreeing to words. Yeah, 100%. You are not wrong for liking media. And listen, there are several critics out there. Again, BJ Colangelo, I mentioned before, who have directly talked about this topic extensively, about media that's very dark and very upsetting being a form of catharsis. Not just because it's like you're looking through someone vicariously, but because the media itself, the messaging itself is so valuable to you. Gavin Careth, here's your missed super chat. I'm so sorry for you. I don't think Grimdark needs to be forever without hope. IMO, Madoka is Grimdark, but it has a fairly hopeful ending. But that doesn't change the path the characters had to take to make it happen. I agree. 100% agree with that. And again, I mentioned that in my Sailor Moon video a little bit too, but, sometimes a dark fantasy can still have optimism even in the darkest of places. But I think there's also a difference between dark fantasy and grimdark. I think Madoka is inherently grimdark. I don't think anyway. There is hope throughout it all, I think. Even what Kyubey is doing brings hope, It brings optimism to a world. The salvage, the harm, pain must be dealt upon the world. And they find a way to revolutionize everything. It's really cool. Nick Wolf, thanks super chat. And here I thought I had to wait for Psy for AI slop. Oh, don't worry. Psy is working on the thumbnail as usual. I commissioned her already for that. Does Anthony have a Discord? Yes, I have a Discord. You are able to join the Discord if you're a member of my channel. If you become a member of my channel, you can gain access to my Discord. It's all good. Okay, this is an interesting question. Pixel Flame, I see your question there. So what are your opinions on fans of Grimdark who obsess over the dark and nihilistic parts of the world / story? I've seen a lot of those types. That is where things get tricky. And I think I agree with Red more on this one. There are people out there who are so obsessed and passionate about the darkness of a story that they ignore that the narrative is compelling. They get obsessed with the darkness and the edginess and the horror of it all. And that's cool. Those are good elements, but it's not the only element. It's like when someone loves Berserk, not because it's a compelling narrative or the action or seeing Gus as a cool character, but because there's violence in it. The violence isn't the appeal. The violence is a technique used to get the core appeal across, that being the story of pain, overcoming insurmountable odds, succumbing to insurmountable odds, but fighting anyway, and recovering and submission to pain on an unimaginable level. The obsession with nihilism, though, that's not why Berserk is so good. It's the fact that despite the nihilism, Guts keeps fighting, you know? Even if it's for revenge, but sometimes it's for self-betterment. That is interesting to me. That's compelling stuff. I love that. Everything Everywhere All at Once got with nihilism by flipping its reasoning on its head. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Bye, Chiappy Odera. Thank you for Super Chat. I hope this AI vid does good. The one I gave you hurt me. I can never unsee it. Mostly due to the dumb. Oh, I forget which one you sent. There were a few that I used. I actually cut a couple. I did a recording of all of them. I used, I think, about half of the ones I found in the video itself. The ones that had the most to say, about it. That wasn't too repetitive. But oh my goodness, I hope you like it. I hope you all like it, because it caused me immense pain to do. I'm enjoying it, but it caused me immense pain to do. And there will be a cameo from a much bigger YouTuber in the video itself as well that I have not announced. I asked an online friend of mine to read a couple lines, and he did. And he was like, "Okay, I'll do this. This is fun." And like, yeah, there we go. We got it going. So he knows who he is, but you'll find out when you get there. He's worked on one of my videos before, but it was one of my lesser watched ones. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't know he and I have talked. You'll see. Is the Snyderverse grimdark? No. I don't think it is, because the Snyderverse also has Shazam. You know, the Snyderverse also has Wonder Woman, and those are not grimdark stories. Even the end of Superman, even the end of Justice League, his dark, grim Justice League film, there's optimism. Again, pronouns confirmed. Yeah, this person has pronouns. Exactly. And that's the problem right there too. Oh, the Smash Brothers one is in the video itself. The Smash Brothers one the Smash Brothers and Final Fantasy ones are in the video I'm working on. But I also talk about a lot of 80s films as well. It's gonna be fun. You know, hopefully you enjoy it. Nick Wolf, thanks for Super Chat. I just remember hearing an AI covered of Michael Jackson singing The Weeknd, and I understood our ancestors' fear of photography stealing our souls. Yeah. Oh yeah, that is exactly what it is. It's horrifying. I'm seeing people ask if there's any more opportunity for OSP in the future. There is. There certainly is. I mentioned this briefly at the start of the stream, but I don't think anyone has reacted to it. I've actually today spoken to Red from OSP. As of today, I have spoken to her after being a coward and not reaching out to her for a very long time out of fear of nervousness, not wanting to bother people. But I did speak out to her. I discussed potentially a future collaboration. That may not happen. It is. I said, listen, if you don't have time for this, don't worry. But you know, there is a potential collaboration in the future. We're talking down the road, not anytime soon, but in the future, where there might be a video that she and I collaborate on. Again, a possibility that can always change. I'm not saying it's a done thing. Nothing is done until it's done, but there is potential there. So that'd be really cool. But she is swamped. This woman works her ass off. They both work. Red and Blue work their ass off on these vids. Black Rabbit. Oh, here's another person I want to collaborate with. Thank you for the chat. I hope, since Noralities is back, I hope she revisits ReZero, and hope you still have a look over her video. I think there's a ton to talk about there. I do want to revisit more Neuralities stuff. I also want to interview Neuralities. I would love to talk to her. She seems like such a cool person. And I know she's seen my videos, which is even greater. The problem is, Nora doesn't have any business emails. I can't reach out to her. I can't talk to her. Like, I was going to try, when I saw she was back, I wanted to send her like an email to say, hey, do you ever want to collaborate? And I can't find a way to contact her. It's frustrating. I mean, listen, I don't want to bother her either. She's probably smarter off not having her business emails be public, especially after all the garbage she went through a couple years ago. But I would, if anyone has a way to talk to Neuralities and ask her if she'd be interested in collaboration, I would love that, because I would love to just work with her on something. She's just too cool. I want to talk to her about her opinions, about her ideas, but unfortunately I can't reach out to her. I can't talk to her. If you're watching, Nora, just comment. I'll see it. You know what I mean? I would love to collaborate with you on something. It'd be really fun. I think especially her recent video is really, really good. I do think it is. Are her comments enabled at all? Now, her comments are enabled. That's how I know she knows who I am. That's the crazy part. She has seen my work, which is, to me, really surreal, because she probably has a business email, but it's not on her YouTube profile. I checked it. It's not there. I really wish I could, like, reach out to her to talk to her, but I just can't conceivably right now. If someone has her business email, though, and it is publicly available, I'm just dumb, let me know, because I would love to just, because I think it'd be really cool. I don't want to bother her, though. That's the thing. I don't want to bother her in, like, a comment. That seems impolite. I don't know. I want to, like, force myself in, like, a comment that's, like, easy to miss. I'd rather, like, have a professional private correspondence, so it's not like, so she doesn't feel publicly pressured to, like, say, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to say, I want to leave the door open for someone to say no. I don't want to make them feel like they're shamed or anything like that, but, like, I don't want her to publicly post her business email either. That's not right either. But again, if anyone has it, it'd be cool. As long as it's, like, publicly available and not like a private email, whatever, you know. But yeah, if Neuralities ever is watching and ever wants to collaborate, let's do it. I'll be down for that in a heartbeat. She's someone I would love to chat with. And there's a few others too I'd love to chat with as well. Did I miss any super chats? I feel like I might have. My business email is publicly available on my channel. I don't want to feel, like, forceful. I don't want to post my email, like, on a comment section. That's going to get, like, a lot of people being obnoxious. Nick Wolf, thanks, super chat. The red collab is you both dunk on Shad more. I don't know Red's opinions on Shad. I know that there was some collaboration with Shadiversity and OSP ages ago, but I feel like that I don't think that ship's sailing anymore. I feel like with a lot of people, it's not gonna work out. Hazel and Kenny Lauderdale, both fantastic YouTubers. Both scratch the old anime itch if you're interested. Yeah, 100%. Veritas Joe. I'll take a look at Veritas Joe another time. I think it's a separate video I would have to do, a separate live stream. Oh, I'm sure that they were friendly before Shad went nuts. I'll say that. They both came around the same time, too, so it makes sense. Yeah, no. Hey, listen, brainstorming is good. Hey, listen, there are no bad ideas. They're just bad executions, I think, of ideas. But, hey, listen, brainstorming is a good, safe place to throw any idea out of the world. Out into the world. I'm a fan of throwing everything that sticks and throwing everything out into the wall and see what sticks. I'm a big fan of that. So never feel like you have to apologize for throwing out an idea. You know, unless your idea is, like, abhorrent, which is a very different story. But yeah, no. If you talk about reboot, I'm sure the idea I pitched has more to do with mythology. But again, that's a whole other discussion. You ever heard of Hazel? Hazel's great. Hang on. Nick Wolf, I see you talking about Hazel. I'm going to talk about Hazel right here. What is Hazel? Elfin Here you go. This is Hazel. Hazel's great. Hazel's fantastic. Her vids, her vids are great. Like, she had a Lucky Star vid a while ago. Oh, America's Greatest Otaku. This show's insane. Bye, Chiapio Dara. Let's do some history. Wait. Yeah. Oh, let's do some history. Wait. No, not quite that one. No. I love, yeah, Hazel's stuff is great. She has a lot of weird anime, which is wild. Hazel's another person I would love to, like, pick her brain. I feel like there's some chaotic energy in there that's, like, really out there. One thing I want to do for 2025, is collaborate with more people. I would love to collaborate with more creators out there. I always have my friends who I fall back on and talk to all the time, but I would love to collaborate with people who are like different and have some opinions that may challenge me. You know, I want to be challenged more on my streams. I want to be pushed more. I want to be argued against more. You know, there was a while back I went on a stream with Celtic Phoenix and his team, his group. And I knew they would challenge me, and I enjoy that challenge. I love being pushed. I think it's interesting to be pushed. I like to be pushed by someone in terms of pushback against my ideas, argued against. I don't want everyone just to like say, "Oh, you're so great." Not at all. On Sunday's stream with Krim, I was on Krim's channel on the stream on Sunday. He pushed. He argued, and that was good. That was what we wanted. We both wanted to push the other to argue ideas. And I think through respectful argument, we're able to really come to the core of what we think. And I'm talking about friendly argument. I'm not talking like what Shad and I did, where we were debating across, reacting to each other's videos and like picking apart the other guy's vid. I'm talking like actual intellectual discussion. Fairness, intelligence, respect for the other person's ideas. Emotional when needing, hitting the heart when needed, but you know, at the end of the day, still walking away positive. And I've reached out to a few of the people, privately, of course, to see if they'd be interested, to get some feelers out. And if they don't do it, they don't do it. It's fine. Maybe not now, maybe another time. And again, I'm always going to argue with people who I'm friends with because I love it. They're cool people. I really like talking to them. I like hanging out with them. And if we can hang out in public, why not? Hell, there's sometimes when I finish a stream where I'll just talk to them for like an hour later, just off stream, just privately, just chilling. That's how happy I am to be with people. I think this this last year has been really great, and it's a lot of fun. But I will do one thing this year that I think didn't do it all last year. On occasion, I will take a break. I was talking actually to Lady Emily about this, actually. It's like a casual... I'm not going to share private correspondence with anyone, but I was just talking to Lady Emily, and I was asking how she deals with burnout, because it gets rough. And she's like, well, you know. And we're discussing it, and she's like, yeah, you've kind of done a video and a stream every week for the last year. You can chill out once in a while. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. And I'll probably do that once or twice this year. There is one period of time, which I cannot discuss soon, that I will do that. And I also want to go to conventions. I want to meet people. I was going to go to DashCon too, but they ran out of tickets too quickly. Westside, no breaks ever. Burn out, Space Cowboy. Yeah, I'll burn out. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks for the advice. I'll take that into consideration. But no, like, because I got to rest a little bit. I've been working... These videos take a while. I'm not making like 10-minute videos. I'm making like hour-long videos. In the last couple months, half my videos have been over an hour long, or at least close to an hour long. Also, Tyler, you take breaks too. You make a stream every day. You know, you can chill out too a little bit. You know, take a week off too. If I'm taking a break, you're taking a break. if I'm resting, you're resting. Damn it. But no, like in general, that's what it comes down to. You know, and a lot of creators. Some take months between videos. I don't think I could do that. And I'll say it. I'll tell you what I told Emily too. I think a lot of it is ingrained in me thanks to. I'm gonna close this over so you can see the Sailor Moon background. It's a little nicer. I think that the working with CBR really nailed it in. The idea that I have to make something more, and this is not. And all my editors, I personally worked with really nice people, and they were pushed by the same forces that I was forced by. But you were compelled to work consistently. And I would write for CBR. It was I've never worked one job. I've always worked 2 or 3 jobs at the same time. I've always been someone who works multiple positions at once. It's one reason why I can buy a house in New Jersey. You know, it made money. It did make money, but I've always worked more than one job. I've always worked repeatedly, relentlessly, in order to fund and in order to feel like I'm creating something and contributing. I have a spouse, I have a spouse. And, it's important to make sure you have enough money to support that. And that's one thing about YouTube that's really great. I'm able to have less stress at my day job because I'm able to produce work that can also supplement that income. And that's great. But there comes a point where you need to rest. And I think that I'm getting to that point where I need to have I'm talking like a week off. I'm not talking like a month off. I'm not talking like a month sabbatical. I'm talking like a week where there would be either no video or a very short video. Just to kind of be like to fill the void, but not be, require the full length of time. Because these videos take like a couple weeks to make. Each video, the scripting phase, the filming phase, the editing phase, it takes a while, and it's important sometimes to relax. And the video I have coming out soon, the big one, the anime preservation video, I just got a message from one of the people I interviewed for it, and he was saying, "Hey, when's that video coming out?" I'm like, "Well, I'm working on it." And I don't think he realized how big the video was. He's like, "Oh, how much could it be?" We spoke for a couple hours. Like, you're going to use a half hour of the footage. Like, well, it's a few other people. It's like, I told him the whole scope of it. Like, oh, actually, it's more than I realized you were doing. And that's life. That's life. I think it's gonna be sometime this month. It's gonna be a week where I don't upload, and know that I'm also on the back end working on the big video. The big project that's worth a month's worth of videos right there in one go. But I'm also trying to recover a little bit, just to recharge enough to make things that are exciting and interesting. Because I still love making videos. I still love everything. This is amazing. But at a certain point in time, I may need to do a stream where I'm just sleeping. You know what I mean? I'm just sleeping on camera. That'd be a stream. I know that this one VTuber I've watched a few times, who's like a tiefling. She does streams. She runs the camera where she's just snoring on camera. It's pretty funny. But it's like you go on there and like, oh well, there you go. She's just snoring. It's great. But there's a list of people I want to collaborate with as well. There's a different Lily I would love to collaborate with, but I don't think her style matches with mine. Who I've said a few times in my Discord that I really like her work. I would love to work with her. She'd be really cool, but I don't know what we do. There's a few other people I would love to. One person I'd love to have a conversation with at one point would be Jessie Gender. I think she's a really cool person. I would love to talk to her at some point. Outside of like, I've briefly interacted with her a couple times, but like I'd love to have a whole conversation with her. There's a few people. Of course, Hello Future Me I would love to talk to more. I've talked to him once during the EFAP controversy. He reached out and said, "Oh, I really like your handling. You're handling all this pressure. You're doing a great job. Keep it up." And that was very encouraging at that time. But I would love to have like a longer conversation with him because he seems like a really chill dude. Because he pull RG Gaming and a hot tub stream. Oh, that'd be great. Are you kidding? That'd be hilarious. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not confident enough to take my shirt off in front of the internet at all. Linkara, I would love too. I would love to talk to Linkara. I've never talked to Linkara. He's one person I've never spoken to. Suede I've talked to. Suede's really cool. But I've never talked to Linkara. Of course, I've talked to Mars Girl. I interviewed Mars Girl back when I was still writing for CBR. She's really chill. She's not the person I would like to talk to too, but I've never really don't know what the topic would be. Because I know that she's kind of stepped back from video creation and worked more in the anime industry itself, which is really cool, and subtitles and all that. ContraPoints intimidates me. I'm not gonna lie. I would be scared to talk to ContraPoints. I feel like she would like destroy me. ContraPoints is fantastic though. She's very interesting. And it's funny. I know Doug Walker. Council of Geeks. Not only would I want to talk to Council of Geeks, I've talked to Council of Geeks a few times on social media. I would love to talk to Council of Geeks on video. She's been on. She's like in the comment section of live streams a few times. I would love to talk to Council of Geeks. In fact, I might be trying to do something with that in the future. Penny from Snapcube. Penny Snapcube. Penny is fantastic. I wish I could talk to Penny. But on the topic of Doug Walker, I would be open to talking to Doug Walker. I don't know if I'd... That's the thing. He's such a... I also feel bad because I did spend the whole video criticizing him. And he is involved with a lot of problematic history. There's a lot of baggage with Doug Walker. But, like... If there was a circumstance where I could interview Doug Walker, that would be like, I would do it. Like, that's the thing that's wild about it. Like, yeah, there's all the baggage that he brings with him, but like, I'd still talk to him, you know? Her sonic voice is so funny because it's just so accurate. I love Snapcube. I love what they've done for years. Yeah, but Doug's a tricky one because he does have baggage with him. That's the problem. But like, if I had a chance to interview him, I would. That's what comes down to it. Like, I would interview him. But like, Dominic Noble, I would love to talk to. Crim has done a one-man agenda against Dominic Noble that I think is really funny. Over Wicked, which is a book I'm not super familiar with. Crim actually asked me if I wanted to do a Wicked stream with him on something, but I'm like, I don't really know Wicked enough to give a good opinion of the book, so I can't help you any at all there. But I would love to talk to Dominic Noble. I think he seems like a really chill dude. A lot of these video essayists I'd love to talk to. There's a whole list. Who else have I not mentioned? Oh yeah, Comic Drake is another one too. He actually watches this channel, which is really cool. Yeah, Comic Drake's really chill. I've actually talked to him a few times. He's really chill. Would love to work with him as well. I'm trying to think who else would be who's on my list. As a whole list, Casually Comics is really cool. I really like her a lot. But I feel like she's also extremely busy. Like, doesn't she have like 3 kids? Like, I feel like I would be asking too much of her for like a collaboration. Comics Tropes, yes. I would love to talk to Comics Tropes. He's like that kind of old school comic nerd I love. Like, when I was growing up in comic book stores, I was like a kid, right? And there were always these like older guys at the comic book store who had like a comforting vibe to them. You know what I mean? They're like there's some people at comic book stores who just, they don't shower. They're kind of creepy. They make you uncomfortable. But there are always these older guys with a real comforting aura, very calm. You could see their enthusiasm for the medium, but they had a serenity to them. I would love to talk to Comics Tropes because he gives me that same vibe that they did. Blurred Without Fear, yeah, I would. He's interesting. He knows what he's talking about. He knows his stuff. Birdman also, but I feel like Birdman would scare me a little bit. I feel like he would intimidate me a little bit. He can be very intense, Birdman, with his videos. But Blurred Without Fear, I think he's really a cool dude. That'd be really awesome. Nick Wolf, thanks for super chat. I saw Doug released my new 20 favorite movies video. Not gonna lie, I kind of want to watch it to see how his tastes changed. First Doug video I'd see in 7 years. I wouldn't mind checking that out. That'd be interesting to see, I think. Gavin Carrot, thanks for super chat. Be honest, Ant, you want to make To Boldly Flee too. I am not gonna lie, I would be down for that. It's terrible, but I wouldn't say no. But I would never say yes either. I wouldn't want to, but like if someone asked me to be like a production of something, I would. Here's the thing: ethically, I wouldn't want to, but like I also know that whenever anyone asks me, "Hey, do you want to help out with something?" I always say yes, almost always. But in all seriousness, I probably would not, for many reasons. And of course, the one I'd also love to talk to is Lindsay Ellis, but I'm also feel like she is also one of those figures who like would crush me. She's a little intimidating. Same with ContraPoints, same with the Birdman. I feel like there's something about them that like scares me a little bit where I'm like, you seem like really cool people, but also I feel like it'd be a little... Deadbeat James he is awesome, but I just don't think there's an overlap in our styles. I think he's so cool though. Oh, I love Dead Meat James. He's great. I love Dead Meat. Dead Meat's fantastic. They're a great channel. I watch them like every time they have a new video up, I watch it. And as a horror fan, I just adore that. But I also feel like there's just not an overlap in our styles in terms of like how we would do things. And I also feel like, I like there's some creators again who I think he seems like a really good people. He seems really good. I like how he takes. One thing I respect about Dead Meat James a lot, which I've seen recently, is that he takes accountability for things he doesn't need to take accountability for. There was a video he did where he was talking about the movie Fresh, which if you haven't seen Fresh, it's a fantastic movie. I really recommend watching it. But he made a comment about the fears women have when dating men, and said these fears don't really happen with men. And he made a whole post afterwards saying, I'm not trying to discount the pains that men go through in dating. I know that there's vulnerabilities, yada, 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 this, that, and the other. And he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to, like, talk about, to apologize for what he said. Because I don't think anyone's really mad at it, I don't think. And it sucks, too. And it sucks, too, that, whenever I go on YouTube drama, the subreddit sometimes, and every time a dead meat shows up, it's someone getting angry at them for like some tiny small thing they did, and it's always like they always attack his wife, and I think she's really cool too, and it always sucks. I hate seeing that. It just seems like just good people, and I hate seeing them get like attacked for like arbitrary things. I don't know. It bothers me. Troy Oboyo. I love Troy Oboyo. I think he's a really cool dude. Here's another one I would love to talk to. Again, these are all really cool people. I want to collaborate with more people. Not because just to talk to people who have different perspectives and different knowledge pools, and people who can challenge me to be better, I think, as well. Because that's the thing. That's the name of the game. You gotta always push yourself to improve. At anything in life, you have to push yourself to be better. And I would love to talk to some people who are like a little different, who are a little outside the box, to really push me to be like better than I am, and to make fun content with them. Just not even like a live stream, even just a video conversation, even just something where we can like interact and like get a sense of, okay, here's two people who are both intelligent, both know what they're talking about, but have different perspectives on things, and where does it differ? Because I as much as I enjoy reacting to stuff like Lily Orchard and Shad, and I do enjoy it. I can't say it's all been pain. There is a fun to deconstructing something that's truly awful. I want to engage people who are intelligent and could argue with me, and I think that's what this series of streams will be. I want to engage with people who are intelligent, whose opinions I respect. And I just want to say, hey, here's why I agree, here's why I disagree, but at the end of the day, you can still agree that there are people worth celebrating. OSP is worth celebrating in my books. Red is a very intelligent person, very well read, very articulate, and is very concise, something I'm not good at. I'm not going to be as concise as she is. But I just don't agree with her on something. And that's totally cool. We need to normalize just not agreeing, but still respecting the intelligence someone brings to the table. And while I don't think I'm ever going to stop reacting to terrible context, I think bad people with bad opinions need to be pushed against. I also want to do more streams in the future where I celebrate creators I respect. But I just don't agree with that at a certain point. Because I feel like me just saying, oh, I agree with that, I agree with that, I agree with that, it's not interesting to watch. But saying, I like this person, but I don't fully see eye to eye on something, that's interesting to me. To have a conflict of people who, you like, who I like. But it's a fun conflict, a safe conflict, when no one's feelings are hurt, and everyone walks away a little smarter, a little more informed at the end of the conversation. That's my hope. We got to bring back agree to disagree, And I think, but as long as it's done, but I want the conversation to be productive along the way. Even if we don't change our minds, at the very least, we've expanded our perspective. Nick Wolf, thanks to Super Chat. Ever considered watching the animated adaptations of Superman, Red Son, and Injustice? Probably two of the more nuanced takes of the evil Superman trope. Red Son, yes, I have seen that one. Injustice, I did see once. I was not a fan of the Injustice adaptation, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, Hats Off Media. I like his stuff. Hats Off Media I like quite a bit. he has a lot of good content, I think. But yeah, no, there's a whole list of people I would love to talk to. I swear. Also, but you know, first and foremost, there's a couple people I've already reached out to. There's a few I've reached out to already, and there's a video coming out soon where, among others, I get to talk to a couple people I talked to in the anime preservation video, one of whom is Red Bard, who I have a lot of respect for. I mentioned Red Bard before. Another is a YouTuber by the name of Raymona. I also talked to my old editor at Anime Herald, Samantha, who is a genius. And I also speak to, in the video, Justin Savakis of Anime Iego, involved with a ton of different... He's also the founder of Anime News Network. There's a lot of people I talked to in this video. It's a lot of interviews coming up in one pure video, one massive video about anime. And it's going to be incredible. It's going to be my best work, I think, if I get it done right. But yeah, no, there's a lot of people who are in this video who are really cool. I'm surprised they agreed to talk to me, honestly, because it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of people I want to collaborate with, and there's a lot of people I would love to talk to. I just want to make this space a place where people can like develop and understand and comprehend and push themselves to the limits. And as people I've talked to already, I'd love to talk to again, you know, or people I've interacted with online who I'd love to talk to again, you know. I just want to make sure that this space is a place where people can be debating, engaging, can know they don't have to agree with what I say. They just have to be pushed further by it. And I think that's one thing with the recent backlash to the Sailor Moon video that struck me the most. The lack of people taking that jump. They just saw... Now again, I have the backing of the internet to tell me this, but through the back end of YouTube, I know that no one actually from Twitter actually went to watch my video directly from Twitter. Alex Shiba, thank you for Super Chat. Red Bard's anime videos are great. Oh, 100%. Red Bard's fantastic. Red Bard is great. I love Red Bard. Kennedy is a gem. And I'll tell you this. This is a fun little aside. This is not going to end up in the video, but we spoke for 4 hours just talking. We got sidetracked so terribly. We got like way off topic and just started talking. Half I can't even use. Like half it's just talking about personal life and like life experience and stuff like that. But it got fun. It got really fun. I like Kennedy a lot. They're good people. They're really cool. And I think you've seen Red Bard show up in some of my videos recently. They showed up in my kaiju video. They've had a quote at the end of the Cyberpunk Elon Musk video. In fact, when I showed them the quote, they were like, "Oh, this goes hard." I'm like, "Yeah, it does. It's a great quote." You know, so there's people I want to talk to more who I think are really cool. You know, I just think it's in general. Yeah, the stream will never end if I keep naming names. Yeah, but it's fun. I like it. It's fun. And there's people in general. I just, you know, this platform is so isolating. NerdSync, yeah, I would love to talk to NerdSync about Scooby-Doo especially. NerdSync has a ton of Scooby-Doo videos. I would love to talk to him about like Scooby-Doo. Steven, yeah, Steven's interesting. Steven's really cool. I have a lot. He's another one. That's the thing too. Some of the creators, like I feel like they have like a divide at times between like their public presence and their videos. Some people feel like it's a little harder to reach out to them. One person I'd love to talk to, but I feel like, and I've spoken to him actually multiple times, but I feel like if I brought him on, it would invite controversy that he wouldn't want to deal with. One person I would like to have a conversation with is In Praise of Shadows, because I feel like he's had a rough couple of years. I think it'd be interesting to talk to him about that. You know, I know I've talked to him otherwise. I've in the horror critical community, he's reached out to me a few times. He's He's gone through a lot. You make one video that's like really bad and it like kind of destroys your reputation. That's not great. And I feel like I would love to maybe help him get on the right. I'm babbling. I'm not making the right idea. Because if Red agrees with Ant's agreement with this video, the difference in length between Red content and Ant's the problem is I make long stuff and Red makes very concise stuff. That's the difference. She's very good at maybe getting right to the point. You know? Yeah, well, I mean, Praise of Shadows, a lot of it was self-inflicted, but, like, how much at a certain point, like here's the thing, in Praise of Shadows, like, he made one or two really not great videos, and people treat him like a pariah. Someone like John Delarue makes 100 terrible videos a month. No one cares what he says. And his is much, I would say John Delarue is much worse, and vastly worse, but he doesn't get even a fraction of the hate that Praise of Shadows got. It's because he made a wrong attack on Wendigoon, I think. That being said, the Wendigoon I would like to talk to as well. I feel like he's an interesting character. I might react to Wendigoon's Dante's Inferno video. I feel like that's something I want to talk about, because I have a problem with certain creators online where they talk about like work that's like literary work and they boil it down and they lose a lot of the nuance. I don't know. I didn't like Wendigoon's Dante's Inferno video. I felt like it oversimplified the work a little too much. Which is rough because it's a complicated work. No, I'm not talking to Nuxtaku. Sorry. Nuxtaku's out of the question. Like, I'd sooner talk to Lily Orchard than talk to Nuxtaku. Quite frankly. At least Lily Orchard has a history there to discuss. I don't want to get involved with Nuxtaku. The less I have to do with him, the better. Yeah, Dante's Inferno I want to do a video on. Dante's Inferno, as a work, I read Dante's Inferno when I was in 7th grade. Well, 6th grade into 7th grade for the first time. And when that happened, it was a great work. I adored every second of reading it because you knew you were reading something profound, but you didn't get the whole picture. You knew it was something beautiful, but you didn't fully grasp it. And then I read it again in college, and I got a new perspective on it. And I read it again in my late 20s, and I'm reading it again now. And every time I've reread it, I've come back to it with a new understanding of the history of Dante, of the narrative. It's truly beautiful. Get Ant on guest. If I swear, Aaron Hansen and Danny Avidan. Actually, it's funny with Dan Avidan. Actually, what's really funny is, because I'm from New Jersey, I used to work with someone. It's a story. Okay, I'll tell you my story. I used to work with someone whose son went to school with Ninja Brian from Ninja Sex Party. Apparently he's a cool dude from what I heard from the grapevine, but it was like really surreal. Mjolnir, thank you for super chat. A quick take on Daria as an accurate take on a suburban teenage life. Just curious. That'd be interesting, actually. That'd be really interesting. Don't say anti-sex bomb. Yeah, there we go. That'd be interesting, Daria. Well, Daria is also very dated. It's very much an old piece of work. So it's a good portrait of that era of teenagehood, but it's also obviously an idealization of it. That's an interesting conversation, too. But he knows how to pick his targets well, which is why you can say. Talking about John Delarue. Oh, yeah, that's the problem. John Delarue he's a snake. He's a snake, I think. And he knows I think that. I've told him directly. We have history, John Delarue and I. Long history. Back from when I was Amanda the Jedi I would love to talk to. She seems so cool. Also, I gotta fight goddammit Malcolm. I have to fight him. He and he knows what he did. I gotta get goddammit Malcolm on here to talk about Hellraiser, and I gotta fight him. Sarah Zed. I'm sorry. Sarah Zed's interesting because it's so strange with Sarah Zed because I'm friends with Emily, so like there's that mutual connection, but I'm always like too nervous to talk about and I also know that Sarah knows who I am. I know through the grapevine, if indirectly. I feel like enough time has passed about this. One of the people who, if you remember, months and months ago, there was an email sent to several YouTube creators, about me. That was being said. Oh, he's this terrible person. He's so terrible. Maybe you can save him. This was in the Lily Orchards trying to destroy my channel. Accused me of plagiarism. Video. One of the YouTubers that was sent the email was Sarah Z. I know that, and I know she saw the email, and was like, what is this shit? This is so stupid. What is this nonsense?" I will say that, but again, that's neither here nor there. So I know that she knows who I am, but like I've never reached out to her. She'd be really cool to talk to, but I also, when it comes to bigger creators, I get nervous. Like I don't want to bother them. I don't want to waste their time, and so I always hold myself back. Princess Weeks would be interesting too. Nando V Movies seems really chill too. I'd love to talk to him as well. Again, a lot of these creators, I feel like I get nervous approaching because I don't want to like bother them. I don't want to be a pain in the ass, so I kind of hold myself back. Even if I'm mutuals with them, I hold myself back from talking to them. One person who I'm mutuals with online, who I am way too much of a wimp to reach out to talk to, is is Joe Cat. He's another one I would love to talk to, but I have no idea. I'd be too afraid to reach out. I mean, not too afraid. He follows me online, which is wild. I don't know why he does. Sometimes he'll like my posts. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I become acutely aware. Wait a second. People actually who I respect a lot follow me on here. I'm surprised with this. But Joe Cat, I would love to talk to on stream, but I just don't know. Jacob Geller. Oh, yeah. He'd be really cool to talk to. Yeah, I would like to talk to Jacob Geller. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, oh, yeah. No, yeah, Joe Cat, I think, is absolutely fantastic. I love his work. Owen Loves Comics also would be great too. I'd like to collaborate him with something in the future. But no, Joe Cat is he is. I've always had a deep love for Joe Cat's work. Not just a respect, but like a genuine love for it. I think it's fantastic. Accented Cinema is funny because I've referenced him multiple times. I've cited him in videos a few times. His work is fantastic. Sin Snapping Gaijin Kuma. I feel like that entire section though of the internet, like the trash take section, I feel like they're like kind of intimidating because they're in their own little corner specifically of the web. And while all of them seem really cool, I get really nervous about reaching out to any of them because they're so distinct. But I've always loved their work. Actually, I've liked Giguk's work since he did the Ava Abridged stuff back in the day. Like I've followed his work for a while. It's fantastic. But I do love Sinsnap's enthusiasm for exploitative manga. I think it's really cool. Legal Eagle is interesting. I don't know what I would do with. I don't know how I'd incorporate a cameo with Legal Eagle. That's the thing. And again, lawyers are busy. Lawyers are really busy. Wouldn't want to waste his time. CJ the X. CJ X is pretty cool. CJ the X is really interesting. But I just don't know how I would incorporate that. You know, I don't know if it would be like a conversation on a video or a stream or an interview. Yes, I do have a Discord. My Discord is available to members of the channel. It's a paid Discord. You only pay once, you get in forever. It's all good. But yeah, no, it's Valsh. Probably not. I probably wouldn't. I don't want to get super political. Look, my channel gets political. I don't want to get like into like politics. That's the difference. Like, and Westside Tyler was in chat too. You get involved with politics. I don't want to get involved with like Dead Domain 2. Dead Domain I've talked to a few times. They're really cool. But again, I wouldn't want to waste their time. And Dead Domain actually be really fun to. I can see myself interviewing talking to Dead Domain. I think they're really cool. Lily Orchard. Lily Orchard. Oh my goodness, that'd be a conversation, wouldn't it? Gesture Bell. No, I don't think I've heard of Gesture Bell before. Actually, what's Gesture Bell about? I don't know Gesture Bell. Colleen's Manga Rex. Yeah, I love Colleen. Colleen's work is great. I referenced Colleen back in my very first one of my very first videos. Colleen's fantastic. Colleen's another one who, if I talked to, I would love. I would be a fun conversation, I think. Especially about shoujo manga, because I feel like shoujo does not get, like, she's doing God's work, introducing so many people to shoujo manga. Isn't Razorfist the one who actually groomed the child? I feel like I saw actual fandom, Dane, bring it up at one point. Comic Pop would be fun. Oh, the Comic Pop seems like a cool person too. The point is, there's a ton of people who I'd love to collaborate with, and I'll try to in some form or another. Some more likely than others. Some people I already have a mutual friend with. Others follow me on social media. Hopefully the collab with OSP comes into place. Falls into place. I'm hoping it'd be really fun because I think their work is incredible. I think they do a net positive on the internet, and I think that they're just really cool people. Good Bad Flicks and Oliver Harper, they're both fantastic. I agree. They've done a lot of hard work. And Good Bad Flicks I reference all the time. I always cite his videos. I cite his videos a lot in my work. Yeah, power scalers avoid magical girls because they breaks their system. Yeah. Good Bad Flex seems really chill. I like their work a lot. Collaborating with Jesus Christ. I haven't worked on that one yet. I'm Catholic. I can't do that one. That'd be a little guilty there. Yeah, no. I'll tell you if they work out. I think some are more realistic than others. Like, I think realistically, I think that, like, I think people who I'm already mutuals with online or have conversations with will be very realistic to maybe get into a collab with. Others, more of a far cry. Jinja Ninja is fantastic also, but I feel like her ADHD energy might be too much for me to follow along with. She might be a little too... They might be a little... They, right? They might be a little too much for me to follow. They might be a little intense. But man, they what anime would Jesus enjoy? Well, Jesus would obviously be a huge Sailor Moon fan, I think. Yeah, Colleen is fantastic. Her stuff is fantastic. I think Fushigi Jello Apocalypse. Probably not. I can't see Jello Apocalypse wanting to collaborate with me after I spent 3 hours ripping into him. But Linkara, I would love to interview. Authentically, I would love to talk to him. I think, Jack Saint is mutuals with me online. I would be down. He's another one that's possible, honestly. Realistically. Sage, I would have an argument with. I almost did a video about Sage today. I think Sage might be another one I want to do this series on, because I think, his Evangelion video and his, Akira video, I have strong feelings about. But he himself seems like a cool dude, from what I know. Linkara, though, I'd really would love to talk to. I feel especially that he, and I do know people who know Linkara, so that's some person I could realistically speak to. But I have people. I know people who know Linkara. The phrasing of that's so weird. But Linkara seems like such an interesting character. Jeremy Johns is a solid no. I don't think I'm going to talk to Jeremy Johns. I don't really like his style of reviewing anymore. I used to really like his work, but I've fallen off of it. I feel like, I don't know. I have an issue with Jeremy Johns' style of reviewing. But, I would love to talk to Linkara. I think he'd be a really cool person to interview. I think he has a really great style when it comes to, being collaborative with other people. Another person I would love to talk to more, who I've spoken to actually on occasion. I have spoken to them. I am mutuals with multiple of them. Are some of the abridging crew? Like, I know Lil Karibo and Kaiser Neko. I'm mutuals with online, which is wild to me to say that out loud. I've talked to Kaiser Neko a few times, like across like Blue Sky and Twitter. He seems like a really chill guy. Like, he seems really interesting. But I would not know what the topic would be. Like, they seem like they're really cool, interesting, and intelligent. But I just don't know what I would say. Yeah, I'd be too nervous. Not too nervous. They're interesting characters. I've talked to them on social media, so I can't even be that big a deal. And I know Movie Bob. Movie Bob would be interesting. I feel like a lot of people give Movie Bob a lot of flack. I think his legacy is mixed. Like, he's done a lot of things that I don't agree with. But I think Andrew Dobson's interesting. Andrew Dobson, I'll tell you about Andrew Dobson. So Sai already said this on stream, so I told her this. I don't know if I told anyone else this. Andrew Dobson did, in fact, reach out to me privately. He asked me not to talk about him. He asked me to not react to his content. I told him I wouldn't. So I probably won't collaborate with Andrew Dobson anytime soon. Celtic Phoenix's group is interesting. I've obviously been on their stream before. I'm in Discords with most of them, if not all of them. I think they offer a lot of good feedback on my work. I think some of it I don't totally agree with. But one-on-one, they're all very chill people. I've never seen their Ruby rewrite, though. I know it's very controversial, but I don't know Ruby enough to get anything out of it, so I've never really watched their Ruby rewrite. But I'm on Discords with them. I'm friendly when I just don't talk. I don't know enough about elements of their perspective. I think at times I think some of them I disagree with more on certain topics than others, but they seem like they're willing to start a discussion. And they were very, during the debate, the discussion I had with them about my old video, they were very interested in what I had to say. They seemed very respectful of it. And they really did want to, and they pushed me in a way that was really good. I think the push was really good, and you need that push every so often. And I think they're really good at pushing, in a way that's really effective, is my opinion. Pushing up roses, I would love. The completionist is never going to happen. I'm sorry. Interview authors like Brandon Sanderson. Oh, that'd be incredible. I've actually done interviews. Actually, I used to do. People forget I was a journalist technically. When I was working with CBR, I did interview a few authors. I interviewed Joe Manganiello, and I interviewed Firefly. What's his name? Alan Tudyk. I interviewed Alan Tudyk. What's your opinion of Manga Kamen? I don't have a strong opinion of Manga Kamen, but he does not like me. He does not like me. Manga Kamen really doesn't like me. And I have no real idea why. I guess we just don't agree on things, but he really doesn't like me. Yeah, he does not like me at all. Which, you know what? I can't win everyone over. So that's fine. I'd like to know why he doesn't like me so much, but he really despises me. Anyway. Yeah, no, this is done for you. You're all throwing out great names. There's some I'd realistically would love to. Some I could realistically can, and They interviewed Scott Snyder. No, I never did. I never interviewed Scott Snyder. I interviewed a few comic book people though. I interviewed I interviewed Brian K. Vaughan. That was fun. I interviewed a few different people. I'm going to draw a blank on who else. Oh, I interviewed Clancy Brown. That's right. I got to talk to Clancy Brown one time at New York Comic Con. That was fun. He actually, it's really funny. I realized I was standing right next to him for like a full 5 minutes without realizing it. Like, oh wait, your fuck is Clancy Brown. Like, he was worn out. It was a long day. You could tell he was like tired, but like still like being okay. What's going on? And it's like his rich voice. Oh, it's incredible. That was really fun. Kid Icarus. Oh yeah, Kid Icarus. He's a character too. Oh man. Anyway, I think I'm getting sidetracked. I've been going vaguely and endlessly on this whole tangent. There's a lot. The point is, there's a lot of people who I would love to talk to, and I'm just down for chilling on the stream anytime too with people. Like, sometimes I have a stream where we're just talking with people, not like having like a real focused discussion. You need that sometimes. Just chilling, relaxing, having fun. Yeah. I interviewed him back in when I was working for CBR. It's not. It's back. I think 2019. It was a New York Comic Con interview. I still have all the audio from that. I'm pretty sure. I have to double check to make sure it's good. But Dan Olsen's another one who I would love to talk to. He seems like a really cool dude. Any of the Nebula people are like really cool. Whenever I've talked to anyone from Nebula, they're all really, really cool. By the way, I am not going to interview James Summerton. I can assure you that's not happening. Very unlikely anyway. The interesting debate would ever, the problem also is one debate, and I'd be open to doing it. Patrick Willems. Patrick Willems is fascinating. I've never talked to him, but I would be interested. Nando V Movies seems really cool. But again, Cinema Wins also I have a lot of respect for. I love what he does. Dominic Noble would be really fun. Yeah, so okay, Lily Orchard. Okay. Would I debate Lily Orchard or argue with her? I would, but she never will. That's the problem. He will. So she will never get into a debate with me ever because she will lose. And she knows that. She has to maintain her public persona that she is right, and she will never ever engage with anyone who can make her look ridiculous publicly. So she will never debate me on any level. That being said, though, I would debate Shadiversity. I would argue with Shadiversity. But he won't because he doesn't want to look ridiculous, so he won't do that. And that would probably devolve in him screaming anyway, so it'd be kind of pointless. The Morbid Zoo, Morbid Zoo is pretty cool. That would be interesting. And of course, everyone who's shown up my videos before, they will come back eventually. At some point, I've been collecting them in a Discord to get them to have them available whenever it need be. It'd be fun. It'd be a fun time. And I'm trying to network them with other people I've worked with, so they'll all be together. It'd be fun. It'd be great. I think we need more networking on YouTube. I think more people need to get together and more people need to work together. High Top Films, I will fight him about Spider-Man. I will fight him defending the MCU Spider-Man because I think he went way too over the top with hating the MCU Spider-Man way too far. Charles Cornell. I don't know Charles Cornell that well. That'd be interesting. I'll have to take a look at him. Moon Channel. I'm not sure about Moon Channel. Collecting friends like Smash trophies. No, it's not just collecting friends. It's getting my friends to then talk to other friends. And then getting everyone together to be like a massive pile of people. It's great. It's fantastic. I'm sure everyone in my Discord would love to know I'm collecting you in one spot. It's not the case at all. Used to be groups on YouTube. Yeah, there used to be, I think. And I think it's good to get that back. I think I want to be a positive. I am privileged to be gaining a following on this platform. That's continually growing. Some months it's slower than others, but it's always growing. I would be a fool not to use that for something. And I think people I wouldn't want to do. For example, I'm not sure I don't. There's a few people I've heard some not so great things about through the grapevine. I probably wouldn't want to work with. I probably wouldn't want to collaborate with them. Obviously, you know, your Friday Night Tights. Oh God. Tim Heidecker. Oh God. Tim Heidecker's. That's a lot. Tim Heidecker's a whole thing. That'd be a strange experience. Jordan Fringe would be interesting. Yeah, Yahtzee. Yahtzee's a lot too. Yahtzee. That's the thing too. Like some of these people are like a lot. I would be intimidated to talk to them. Honestly, Yahtzee definitely I'd be very intimidated. He's like internet royalty. It'd be like showing up on Red Letter Media. It's just too much. I would be overwhelmed. But no, I am gonna fight Malcolm. Tell Malcolm I'm gonna fight him over Hellraiser. We're fighting Malcolm. Goddamn Malcolm, we're gonna fight. It's gonna be great. And I'm sure Malcolm will be like, okay, let's do it. But no, yeah. Anyway, this has been a great conversation. I'm glad we were able to chill. And again, I want to have more of Nick Wolf, would you debate JXE? She seems hit miss. I have argued with JXE online. It did not go too well. We didn't really see eye to eye. It was a social media. It was when the EFAP thing was going on. I think she. I don't know. JXE. It was weird because she was giving me advice, but also criticizing me. It was a weird conversation. I think if I have in the benefit of hindsight, I could probably approach JXE a little better. I definitely could have handled that discussion better. It was my own fault. I didn't approach that with the right headspace. That same day, my grandmother-in-law had passed away, so I was dealing with like people dying around me, and the JXE conversation did not go as well as I would hope. But JXE is interesting. I don't get what she sees in EFAP. I do not understand why she is sticking around with EFAP so much. It doesn't make sense to me at all. But you can't understand people. And before you ask, I'm probably not going to ever debate EFAP. I cannot respect anyone who aligns with Rags. Rags is just. I have no respect whatsoever for Rags, and by extension, none of the other EFAP crew I have respect for. The core EFAP crew, anyway. If they've streamed like once with them, that's a different story. But they regularly stream with Rags. I can't with that. It's just there's something just too despicable about that. Again, Doug Walker. I would interview Doug Walker, but I don't. Like, again, it would be more like a conversation than anything else. That's the thing, too. Like, would I talk to him? Yeah, probably, but I wouldn't go on my way to talk to him either. Like, if I bumped into him at a convention, I would probably talk to him if I had the opportunity to, but I just don't think I would ever, like, he's not the first person I'd want to reach out to. There's many others I want to talk to first. Yeah, there's a lot of people. Again, keep in mind, most of these people are like way too big to have any interest in talking to me. Turkey Tom, probably not. Turkey Tom intimidates me as well. A lot of the super intense drama tubers I'm not like gonna talk to because like I like the Turkey Toms because they're just a little intimidating. I think. I don't know. They're a little intimidating to me. I would fight Jar too. I would argue with Jar on stream. Like of all of them, I feel like that'd be the most entertaining because I think Jar, like for whatever reason, like puts his foot in his mouth way too much. It would be fun to argue with him. But Ellis Mark's interesting. Ellis Mark's very interesting. Anyway, that's a whole lot of people. It's a lot of ideas. We'll see if any of these pan out, by the way. Most likely, 90% won't. Can I talk to my dad? Oh, I've already talked to you, Dad. Yeah, Ant versus Jar. I would get a kick. That would be a WrestleMania event. I'm not going to lie. I would be down for that. Like, Jar, I feel, especially now. I feel now it's almost like less fun to debate Jar because like he's become such a punching bag. And is his channel even around? I think he got, like, kicked off YouTube, I'm pretty sure. I feel like his channel got banned for a little bit. Crimson Ender versus Anthony Civil War when? Any day of the week. Krim is always ready to like throw down with me. It's great. Ant is your dad now. Yeah. Bonsai Pop is really cool. They're also pretty great. Yeah. Anyway, we're getting sidetracked. I'm just babbling now. I want everyone now to have a great rest of the night. To summarize the night, I think Gerard tried to come back. He did try, but apparently what happened was his channel got hacked, and then it got deleted for like spam. I'm pretty sure it was, or like something. And he's been trying to get it back ever since. Did it succeed at coming back? I do hope. You know what? I will say this. I think that your movie sucks. Probably not. Your movie sucks got into a really bad argument online with my friend Jazzy Oliver. And I actually was very upset seeing that, and I don't think I could ever, like... I don't think I can get over that. That was, like, really awful, what he said to my friend Jazzy, so I don't really respect him all that much. Mother's Basement I would love. I actually know someone who did... it was just on a podcast, Shonen Flop. I don't know if the episode's come out yet. It probably has. Where I was talking to them. They've interviewed Mother's Basement before. And they said he was a really cool dude. I'll be down to talk Mother's Basement. I know, Mother's Basement seems really, really chill. Anyway, I'm trying to get to sleep. I've been talking for like 3 hours straight now, so I'm going to try getting some rest. Everyone, have a great rest of the night. Take care, everyone. Going to now play you out with some music. I'm going to get to it right here.